Anyway, hello, folks. I hope you're all doing well today on this July 8th, I believe. Let's see, let's check the calendar. I think it's Wednesday, July 8th, 2026. And in case any of you have never seen me before or don't know who I am in that event, my name is Jeffrey Starwolf Quinn, and I decided to go live for this. I could have made a video, but I haven't been live in a long time. I've been having some technical problems, with my computer. It's hard for me to get used to all this stuff. I am 65 years old now. I'm almost 66. As a matter of fact, I will be 66 in 1 month. So, not apologizing for it. I made it this far. I'm still alive. But I did get sick. I have been sick for about the past 2 weeks, and I usually don't get sick. I'm usually very healthy. I went years and years without having any kind of sickness, and like about 20 years, and pretty much very, very good health, you know. But when I do get sick, sometimes it just seems to be pretty bad. And it lasts for kind of a long time, so you can kind of hear it in my voice a little bit right now. I have the only thing I have left over from it is a little bit of congestion in my chest, but my a couple of years ago, my heart doctor had diagnosed me with congestive heart failure. And to me, it sounded like that meant she thought I was having a heart failure. It's a strange name for an ailment, especially since I hadn't been having any heart failure, especially heart failure of any kind in my whole life, or any heart problems at all. And as far as the congestive heart failure, well, when she diagnosed me for that, well, I guess it was almost 2 years ago. I I hadn't had congestion of any kind for about 30 years, in my head, in my chest, and anywhere in my body. I could walk fast, I could run, I could climb mountains, I didn't smoke, and so I thought there was something wrong with her. I didn't think she was a very good doctor. Her name's Dr. McLean, and she's a young woman, but now I think she might be kind of a prodigious person. She might be a bit of a prodigy because sure enough, she diagnosed me with that. And I came home. My wife was alive at the time. I told my wife, I don't think I'm going to go to this doctor anymore because she said I have. Because my wife asked me how it went and everything. I said, well, yeah, I didn't even want to tell her. I said, she said I have this strange disease called, I said, don't be alarmed, but congestive heart failure. And she's like, what? And so I told her. And so for over a year, I canceled my appointments with that doctor, and I never went back to her. I said, I'm not going to her anymore. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I haven't had congestion in 30 years, and the last time I did, it had just been a cold, a normal. I never had any abnormal congestion or anything, and like I said, I didn't smoke. And I was in pretty good physical health, just about all of my life. And but sure enough, I started almost 2 years after she diagnosed me with that. I started having some pressure on my chest when I was exercising heavily, walking to the mailbox or something. That's not exercising heavily. That was a joke. But it is a pretty long walk to my mailbox, though, from my house. But anyway, sometimes I would feel a little pressure, walking back from the mailbox and stuff like that. So anyway, turned out I guess maybe she was right. And I have been back to her, and I think I made her a little nervous, because when I went back, she was kind of like nervous, like, "What are you doing here? I haven't seen you for 2 years." I was like, "Yeah, but I know you're a really good doctor, so I decided to make an appointment and come back to you." So anyway, that's how that went. She is really good, but hi from Bangladesh. Someone from Bangladesh saying hi. Matlide E May C, and Manin Khan P9C from Bangladesh. Hi to you lovely people. That's great. That's amazing too. Well, I am in my kitchen now, and I was just about to take a little walk outside. But first, I'm going to introduce you to a little friend of mine, a little pal. And let's turn this around. And here he is. This is Junior. This is hi, Junior. This is my little buddy, Junior. And a little while ago, he's resting now. A little while ago, he was so quiet, and he was down there, and I was up, and I was working. I was very busy because I had, like I said, been sick. I'd been out of commission for a few days, so I got quite a bit behind on my business things. And I turned around quick, and I accidentally stepped on him, and he made a bad, horrible sound, and he ran off. But I got him back since then, and he's getting special treats and special treatment, and he got a lot of pets for it, and he's doing pretty good right now, though. So that's good. So I wanted to show you him. It's he and I over here in my humble abode. So we'll switch it back to me again. I made about 14 videos of my other cat, Romeo. And Romeo's not dead. Romeo's doing well. But I have, I'm taking care of I've been taking care of about 5 cats over here, 5 or 6 cats for the past few years. And by myself, since my wife passed away. She passed away about 1.5 years ago. It was pretty easy with her, but not that easy by myself with everything. There's a bunch of outside cats, and I had about 3 inside cats, and then the inside cats started going in and out. And of course, I love Romeo. Like I said, you can see her in many of my videos. She's kind of a little star. Her name is Romeo. She's a little black one with a white spot right there, and she does a trick called her meerkat trick, where especially when you go down to pet her, or if you're walking close up to where she is, she'll stand up on her hind legs, her back legs, with her front legs up like this, and look around and look at you, and just like a meerkat, like those meerkats on TV, and she'll stay standing up like that for a while, until you pet her. And so that's her meerkat trick, and she did lots of other tricks too. And and I didn't tell these people that. The thing is, she had been going out at night, and it was at the point where whenever I opened the door, she would run in or out, and so would all the other cats, whatever they wanted to do. And there was really nothing I could do about it anymore, because I can't run around the yard chasing them and bringing them back in, and all that. And so, and Romeo, she ran out past me at night. I really couldn't get her and bring her back in all the time, and she started getting scratches on her face. And you may remember from the last video I did, I looked at her, I was like, Romeo, what's wrong with your face, and she had some scratches there, and she was having a problem behind her ears. She was it was like white area, and where some of the fur was really light, don't want to say lightened up, but it's thinned out. It was thinned out behind her ears. Now I brought her to the veterinarian, and at the shelter actually, and she said, well, usually she'd just give her some medication and send her home, and she'll be all right. So I said, okay. So I was going to do that, but then these two really nice people came in, and they were looking for a cat, and Romeo was there with me in the crate, and I was worrying about this problem, like, what am I gonna do? I can't keep her in all the time. She's getting, I think, beat up by this other cat out there, this big old male cat, that doesn't realize she's fixed or something. I don't know. But anyway, these people were real nice, and they came in the shelter and they were looking for a cat. So I told them, I said, well, I do have a really, really nice one, really good one right here. Her name is Romeo. And I had her file with me with all her medical checkups and her evidence of her shots with the dates and everything, because I really take care of my animals really well. My wife and I both did. My wife was animal rehabber. And turn the light on over here. I'm going to be heading outside. Thing is, on live, I never quite have mastered the art of pausing it and cutting to another scene like you can do in regular video recording. So I'm just going right along live here. I'm in my kitchen right now. I guess we can take a quick look at my studio again. It's not much, but turn it around. There we go. We're walking into my studio, which looked like kind of a just chaotic mess, but it has been really hot. There's a TV screen over there, and some of my files. I just kind of like to show people what's going on with me a little bit, especially at my age. Like I said, 65, almost 66, doing this. And so this is what I did recently. I put hooks up, and I put like this right here. I do ASMR sometimes, and that is autonomic sensory meridian response videos. It's sort of new. It's been around for about 10 years now, I'd say, almost, probably. And I do some affirmations, a little bit of a Reiki, meditative, mental, emotional healing kind of ASMRs. The reason why I try to do it, to help relax people and help them be able to be relaxed, possibly sleep, possibly help them with their pain a little bit through my ASMR. And I haven't done a lot of it, I have to admit. But so anyway, I have that file up there for that. This is the thing that I'm showing you that I've been doing. This one is like recording things on the laptop for vlogging and social media. I got a file for stuff for that, because that has not always worked out really well for me. Most of the time I either come up with just audio and no video, or just audio and whatever video is on my computer screen at the time, but not me. And or just video, really good video, but no audio. So anyway, and then I have up other things like this, like how to do things on YouTube. I have it labeled, and that's what's on that clipboard. Sort of like a kind of an office thing, and how to do things on the computer, on the laptop, desktop, because that's what that notebook and clipboard's for, all those notes. Because really, turn that back around, it just seems to me like I had just basically mastered Windows 7, on my gateway, my giant gateway tabletop, which was a real desktop. Now that term has been changed, and what we used to call laptops You know, the kind you can carry around and open up. They're really small now. They used to be pretty big. But that they were called laptops. And the desktop involved a regular desk, like an office desk, and a part of the computer that was called a tower, and that was a big electronic unit. Well, first of all, you have the your screen, your monitor, and then you have your keyboard in front of your monitor on your desk. I'm describing what a desktop used to be when they first became popular, when they first came out back in, I don't know, the pretty shortly after Windows was invented. Yes, I remember when Bill Gates invented Windows. I remember that day, actually, when it came on the news. And everyone was like, Windows? What's Windows? And everyone was talking about it. It's like, well, it's got something to do with the computer. People, like regular people, can much more easily use the computer now. And then people will be like, well, what's a window? Well, the window is what's on the computer screen. Whatever you have up on your computer screen, that's the window that you're on. Wow. And you can press a button and change it. It changes to another window. And you can do stuff with them that way. So that's how people were talking about it when Windows first came out. And I'm old enough that I remember that very well, actually. So I'm talking about my first gateway computer that was actually, I'll turn this around, it was on this table right here, and it's not there right now, but I have my printer on it, which is not working right now. And there's some of my things in the back behind my chair. I've got some of my instruments, my famous basketball, and some of my Dale Jr. memorabilia here, which is the same name as my kitty out there, Junior. And that's my wife's Dale Jr. bike helmet and her backpack that she used to wear before she passed away. And then I've got like, my prayer Bible, regular Bible, some philosophy, encyclopedia, some reading fairy tales for nice reading, Cherokee myths, really excellent book on Louisiana. I'm going to turn this back around because I don't know exactly what it's pointing at there. Let's see, turn that. Okay, yeah. So, anyway, got the Bible there, encyclo, that's like Gray's Anatomy. Actually, it's not actually Gray's Anatomy, but American Medical Association of Home Medical Encyclopedia. I have Gray's Anatomy around here somewhere, the real one that they named the show after. And, myths of the Cherokee. But this book right here, this is All Louisiana, it says. That's the name of the book. All This is Louisiana is the name of the book, by Francis Parkinson Keyes. And it's quite old. I'm not going to go into the whole thing right now. But if you ever want to study Cajun history or Creole history of any kind, this is a real good book to read and look at and get, and look at. The New Rubber. That's what how in one of my videos I was talking about why North Carolina was called the Tar Heel State, because us Southerners down here, not me in particular, but had a way of really making tar and rubber out of all the pine tree pitch that we have down here and other kinds of materials. And so this is just in this book about Louisiana. It's just a chapter about the new rubber, and there's a guy making it right there. You can see it's pictures are black and white. It's an old book. It's a very old book, and but it's really good. The old capital, Baton Rouge, which is the famous college, which I think one of my favorite dare I say, colleagues, Miss Tessa of the channel Always Slightly Sleepy and Always Slightly Sleepy Supplemental and Always Slightly Squatting physical fitness channel that she has. She is amazing. I'll give a shout out to her and her uh, people that she collaborates with on her channel, and she has some really good helpers on her channel. And she actually is from Louisiana too, and I believe she graduated from this college in Baton Rouge. But I think she's from that area anyway. I digress. I just, since I was showing you this book, um, a lot of my family, well, some of my family lives fairly close to Louisiana, except my family part of it, live in Alabama, but it's southern Alabama, across from Mobile Bay, in that area. And so, anyway, it's not too far from Baton Rouge and Louisiana. And so, anyway, there's just a few of my other books. And right there, this is a really good book, Sailing Around the World. If you want to get a book, you can get it on Amazon, of course. Like, I think you can get all books on Amazon. You can probably read it with that book reading site. I can't think of the name of it right now. Please don't hold all that against me. But anyway, it's this guy from New England, I think. He wrote this book, Sailing Around the World, by Captain Joshua Slocum. And I won't go into the whole thing right now, but my wife's the one that put me onto it. And he is really fantastic. Oh, hello. It says, hi. Okay, I'm gay. Okay, wow. Well, that's nice. That's good for you. GK Adventures 16. I want to say hi back to you. And thank you for coming on and saying hello. And Gol Rodriguez, N4M, hi, hello to you. And thank you for coming on and saying hi. Anyway, there we go. Captain Joshua Slocum, Sailing Around the World. I won't even open it up. It's a fantastic read. It's a fantastic book. I'm sure no one would regret getting it if they like adventures, especially if they like sailing. In New England, see, I actually grew up the first 30 years of my life in the Boston area in New England. And then before I migrated down here to North Carolina, which is where I've been living for the past almost 35 years. So actually now I've been living down here in the South longer than I lived in the first 30 years of my life in New England. But also during those years, I also came down here to visit family that is from here. I say I'm from a mixed family, but it's not like mixed black and white or Indian and British or something like that. It's more like mixed, some from the North America and some from the southern part of America, the southern states of America, Florida and Alabama especially, and but also Maryland and a few other states. Yeah, us Quinns are a little bit spread out, but Quinn is a common name. Now there's a lot of people named Quinn in America. It comes from Ireland, but anyway, there's just a few more of my books. Lost Books of Merlin, yes. Merlin the Wizard, we all know who he is. Cherokee Astrology, excellent. Gaia, Eros, Mother Gaia, yes. I have no problem with Christianity and Mother Gaia and, some even other mythical gods and so forth, Celtic, because the way I see it, there's one entity in charge of everything, but it doesn't mean there aren't other entities that do other things. that helped them out or whatever. And so, to me, there's no reason why Gaia can't be up there. And this is a card from when my wife died, but that's the typical rendition of Jesus uh, in the North American Christian sense. So anyway, but that's a love and memory of my wife card. And I've got a little Canadian, French Canadian in me. We, uh, so there's my Canadian Mountie. Oh, there's a mirror there. Okay, so I can get me talking and me showing my Mountie. Hey, hey, hey. That's my G.I. Joe Mountie that I made. Um, I think someone, a very clever person, made that jacket, and I know that Hasbro didn't actually make this collar that he has on. It's one of those Dickies, um, because someone I knew made about 20 of those. She had a specialty of making those with her sewing machine, and she gave me a few of them. It went perfect with this Canadian Mountie. So now the hat is made by Hasbro G.I. Joe. This is a Hasbro 12-inch or 11 and a half inch Hasbro G.I. Joe man here. And I made the gloves. They're a little big. And anyway, so that's my 12-inch G.I. Joe Canadian Mountie. Oh, there's a picture of my wife. I'll put her in there. That's Jackie. That was my beloved esposa, my spouse of 26 years almost. Very, very beautiful woman. Very intelligent, very creative, excellent poet, published poet. And she's written a few books that never became very famous, but still very good just the same. And but never got picked up by big publishing companies, just like a couple of books that I wrote. Um, and what I learned about that is, and that's Jackie, my wife, and let's just lift that up. And there's me at Faneuil Hall in Boston with my sister Les, and that's actually, put Jackie down here. That's my mom right there. That's my sister Leslie, and this is me at 18 years old, 18 or 19. I think I was 18. And why, I know it was a hot day, but why I would have my shirt off in Faneuil Hall in Boston, sitting at the food court with my sister and my mom, is just, I would have to say it because I was kind of a hippie. And if I was hot, I guess I took my shirt off. I noticed there's a woman back there staring at me with a perplexed face, and a couple more, and a few more over there. I noticed, I didn't notice at first, all these ladies were looking at me probably like, what is that young guy doing sitting here in Faneuil Hall having a Pepsi with no shirt on, you know? But anyway, remember I said my wife was a wildlife rehabber. Let's lift this up. Here we go. This is her holding one of our, I think that's a raccoon. Yep, that's a raccoon. That's probably Little Rocky. But we saved lots of animals. She did, I should say. I helped her. And, you know, raccoons are very friendly, very beautiful animals. The ones we got were about the size of your thumb. Their eyes were closed, and well, that was mostly the possums that were that small. We did get a couple of raccoons that were little, but not quite that small. Most the raccoons we did, I don't know, about 5 or 6 raccoons we saved and raised, and then eventually had to release into safe places in the wild. There's another picture of Jackie when we were in Oregon. And we went all up and down the coast of Oregon. And that was really fantastic. This is at a SeaWorld place in Oregon where there was lots of seals and stuff that you could pet and watch. So let's put Jackie back down there. And that's from the sea lion caves that we went to on the coast of Oregon. That's if you're going to be driving down the coast of Oregon, which we did, I would say definitely take in that sea lion caves. It's very interesting. It's very good, and you won't regret it. And well, right here, this is just since I had it in my hand, a little souvenir. I guess you could say walk club type of thing that we got in Cherokee, North Carolina. They make the Native Americans, the Cherokees, make things like this, and they sell them in, all these gift shops in Cherokee. Cherokee's a great place, Cherokee, North Carolina. I also recommend that, and it's made of a really strong piece of wood and a rock, actually, which they painted on. Probably some kind of scary ancestor spirit on there for, it's very decorative, but, even the Native Americans really believed in ancestor spirits and power from ancestor spirits and things like that. So they actually would paint things like this on their weapons and to, one thing, be scary to the enemy, but also to, invite the spirit of ancestor spirits to come into their items and be with them and help them out when they're in battle or whatever. And then there's the Thunderbird, very popular in especially Northwest American, Native American life and mythology and everything. The Thunderbird. So that's why I have my Thunderbird up there. And there's, I don't want to make this like all home movies, but there's another picture of my wife, Jackie, when we lived in Asheville, North Carolina. That was right around Christmas time. We had a pretty good life, and that's one of her things I left on the wall. She liked fairies, all different kinds of fairies and things like that. And she was a Cancer. She was very creative. And like I said, a great poet and great writer and artist. And pretty Christian, for the most part, but actually, well, she sort of invented, I don't know if she'd want me saying this to the whole world like this, but I'm just showing you some of the stuff on my wall. But that's one that I painted right there, but we also have a bunch that she painted as well. And I got my Spider-Man up there. I love Spider-Man. Anyway, so the computer Wi-Fi reception isn't that great over here. And so I have this, that's the new modem router, this square gray thing. It's very plain, and they're quite a bit different than they used to be. And I have it, being the great electronical genius that I am. I'm sorry, I still have a little bit of sickness left over after about 7 days of being sick with all different kinds of things. I have it tethered to my laptop Lenovo over here in 3 different ways by 3 different wires, so I could keep getting the Wi-Fi the right way. And oh, it's dark over here. Anyway, okay. Well, I'm glad I'm doing this. I haven't done any live things for a while. Turn that light on, and I might do something about this seating arrangement. There's my chairs, but there's not a whole lot of room here, and so I'm doing the best I can. I do the best I can. And but that's my I use an Audio Pro, and I have to admit it's a very good condenser microphone, but like I said, myself, from my lack of experience, I believe I have had some technical problems recording, like vlogging, sitting in this chair with my headphones on, or sometimes my earphones, which are right there. And even though I have this really nifty, as YouTube people would say, handy dandy mixer, their interface between my Lenovo and that's one of my mics. I'll get that on a little boom. These are really good mic headphones. These are Panasonics, and there's a few videos about them on YouTube. It's one of my ASMR pads there. But anyway, that's what I use. These are the Panasonic. Uh, they're wired. I got them that way deliberately because I've got my non-wired Cloud 2 Core HyperX wireless over there, and they're really excellent too. They're more of a gamer's headphones, but they're very comfortable and they're really great for streaming and vlogging as well. But anyway, getting back to this, I say anyway a lot, don't I? I do. That's how I go back and forth between things. But yeah, that's the RPHT161M Panasonic headphones, and that's not what this whole video is supposed to be about. But since I was going by it, I wanted to explain it. It's pretty hot in here right now. I have the air conditioner on low here in the living room, but close that out. It's actually cooled off quite a bit outside. It's in the low 90s, and we just had been going through a big heat wave. I'll show you my guitar. Whoops. There we go. Well, I'll turn the whole thing around. But anyway, that's what it looks like. That's my PV. Electric that I love. And anyway, so that's that. Anyway, so I was saying, it had been like the day before yesterday, it got up to almost 104 here in North Carolina, which is really hot for us. And Junior's still sleeping, okay. And I'm going to change these shoes, take these off, and take a walk outside. But I turned the air off here in the bedroom because I wanted y'all to be able to hear me well, which you can't really do with the air on. Bluey! Everyone loves Bluey. I saw this and I had to get it. I saw it in the craft store, and it's a light actually. Anyway, that's Bluey from Australia, and very, very popular young people's cartoon right now. Might as well turn that off. You know what? I'm going to turn this air back on again so it's fairly cool again here when I come back in. Let's see. We'll put it on that. We'll put that down there. Put the fan on. Put the fan on right there. What I'd have to do is put the fan in front of it like that. And that way, see, there's the air conditioner down there in the window. And then I put the fan on in front of it, and so the air comes up, and the cool air comes up. And there's my bed. But since I've been sick and I wasn't able to take care of some business for a long time, so I'm trying to take care of some business. But I wanted to make this video too, because I haven't, even though I've released some videos in the past few weeks, I haven't really made any new ones, especially any new good ones. If I ever made good ones. I think I made a couple decent ones. But anyway, I want to warn you all about this company, Optimum, too. It's called Optimum. I have a whole file about it. Now, the regular company Optimum, I guess, is okay. My wife and I had them for Wi-Fi and internet for about 6 years without any problems. And but I finally had to cancel, and I wrote down all the information when I canceled. I probably shouldn't be showing all this. This stuff is kind of personal, but anyway, then when I was completely severed from the company Optimum, without going into all the reasons why and everything, but I was, didn't owe them anything, and I was not affiliated with them at all. I had canceled everything out with them and I switched to Verizon from my phone and my Wi-Fi. So that's what I had. And okay, I'm going outside. Let's see. Should I put the hat on? Yeah, I guess so. Put on the hat. What about glasses? Should I put on glasses? Let's see. I don't want to look with the hat. Oh, this really should be turned around looking at me, shouldn't it? Oh, okay. There I am. Anyway, there's the hat and one hat. And let's see if we can find some glasses. Blah, 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 blah. These will do. These will do. Put these babies on. All right. Good enough. Okay, here we go. Go on outside, check the mail. And you know what? I wish I could pause this because I need a tissue. And that is embarrassing. But I do. Hold on. Oh, like I said, I wish I could pause it. Anyway. I don't know how to pause a live stream. People have told me there is a way to do it, and I'm sure that the experts like Tessa and Sherry Lorraine and all the other really big experts on YouTube, the greats at making videos, and are really great at all this kind of technology. I'm sure there is a way to pause a live stream, but I still just don't even know what it is. So here we go. Going out, go back out this way. Stepping over you, Junior. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right. We're going outside. We're coming outside. This is my deck outside. I'm going to switch it around so y'all can see. All right. Hi, hello. Thank you all for saying hi. Hi, Adventure 16, GK Adventure 16 again. I wish more people were saying hi, but I can't see if they are. Anyway, you get what you get. That's a saying that one of my friends used to say from a long time ago. Say, whenever anyone talked about life, it would just be, well, you get what you get. That's all there is to life. Whatever you get, that's what you get. You do the best you can, and you try to make that, as good as possible. But really, as simple as the saying it is, when it comes right down to it, in life, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. And I know it sounds very oversimplified, but it's kind of true. So, anyway, the reason I'm out here is to show you one of our North Carolina phenomenon called the crepe myrtle. And we have a lot of crepe myrtle trees around here, and I have a few in my yard. And they are, let me say this. To start off, we have the dogwood trees, which I have 2 big dogwood trees in my front yard. And they're the ones that get all the white flowers on them, white petals all over. And those go for a couple months. And when those in about in the spring, April, May, you get the dogwoods out there, very beautiful white petals all over these trees. And then they go away, and then there's just regular leaves on the trees for about a month. And then when it gets really hot, usually when it starts to get really hot, we get these things called crepe myrtles. And they are the purple ones that you see all over the place. And right now, I'm going to turn this around so y'all can see them. And these, unfortunately, I was sick when they were really in bloom big. And so they're wilting quite a bit now, and they're not as beautiful as they were a few days ago. But I'm going to show them to you anyway. You know, I wish this was just a couple days ago. You would have seen how big and bushy they were, these blooms. They're bright purple, violet, big, like I said, puffy. And now they don't quite match that majesty of how they usually are, and when they are at their fullest. But they don't last a long time either. They come out, they last a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then they're gone, you know. And so anyway, I'm going to show you these anyway, even though they're starting to wilt. This is in my backyard where I live right now. Anyway, there they are. There's some of them. These are called crepe myrtles. This is from my back deck. I'm standing on my back deck right now, which is in great need of repair, which I've started to repair a little bit. I'm just pan scanning around. This is some of my pine trees, and up to the Carolina sky, because at the top of those pine trees up there, guess what we have up there? We have woodpeckers. About 5 different species of woodpeckers, actually. The green necks and all different kinds. And the woodpeckers live way up there. You know, they make their nests up there. And also, what we have a lot of here in North Carolina and Southern America is tree frogs. And they're not making a lot of noise right now, but they can go way up too. So anyway, pan scanning down and around back to the crepe myrtles. There's gnats bothering me right now. There's my whirligigs, my little whirligig park, and old beach umbrella that I set up here on the deck for the cats. I'm thinking of making a covered deck. There's a couple tables that I put out there for the cats. Now I put that one table on top of this other table because Junior, he unfortunately pushes past me whenever he wants to go outside too if I open the door. He's not doing it right now because he's pretty content inside. But he loves to get up on the roof. And so he'll be up here on the roof. And what he was doing was just jumping right down from the roof onto the railing of the deck right there behind. I put that little ladder I made right there for him too to hop on. But as you can see, a little bit of the railing right there. It's not a big railing. And this I had to dry out because that's for the cats. It got real wet with all the rain we had. Put that back there. So I made that for the cats to lay on, but also so Junior doesn't have to jump from the roof down onto this. I moved the table right up to it too because he was jumping right down onto this, you know, little railing. And cats are amazing. They can do things like that, of course. But I didn't want him to get hurt because they still can sometimes. So I put that, I had actually made that ladder as a trellis when my wife was alive for some of her flowers and things like that. But it started to come apart a little bit. But that part that I got up there, that's pretty good and steady. So I put that up there for him to jump down on, and also this table. So now he can hop down on this table from the roof, and he doesn't have to just jump on that tiny little railing. And there's Barney. See if we can zoom in on him. There he is. Hello, Barney. He's been in a few of our videos. And he stays outside all the time now. I brought him in about 10 or 15 times. And all he wants to do is come right back out again. So You want to say hi to the folks, Barney? No, you there. There you go. Good boy. Okay. So here I go. I'm gonna start walking around again a little more. And oh, I forgot my little note thing. Well, let's see. I wanted to touch on that I was sick. I have not really finished talking about that. See, there's some crepe myrtles way back there in the other people's backyard. You can't really see, it's a little too far away. But anyway, this is the crepe myrtle tree. They're really interesting looking. Down at the bottom, they're like a million little trees coming up at once. And without seeing all those beautiful purple flowerings from them, you might not know what it is, you know, but a lot of animals live in these crepe myrtle trees too. Tree frogs love them. I know that the top of this and all around the higher parts of this are full of tree frogs because I've heard them. And actually, when I was cleaning the other day, I found a tote that I opened up, and it had some of my old the dog's toys who I don't have anymore, but one of them was this pig, and you squeezed it and it made a like a oink sound, you know, kind of sound, a funny sound. And the dog loved it. I remember the dog used to pick it up and carry it, and you know, we laughed and made fun of him, and he ran around with it, making the noise with it, and that was his piggy, I think. But anyway, so I found it in this tote out here, a tote that looks like that. That's what I mean by tote. That's a different tote. But see, I cleaned out all the area over here because I've got to redo the back of this deck if I want to stay here. I don't know how long I'm gonna stay here, but the floor of this deck isn't that great, and I'm all alone, so I'm trying to do it myself, and it's expensive. But I repainted the railing out here and everything. Anyway, so there was a tote there, and in the tote was this dog toy piggy that made the sound. And so I squeezed it a few times there on the deck, and all of a sudden all these tree frogs from up there started responding, and they were all just a litany of tree frog sounds. It was amazing. It was fantastic. But you know what? I think I threw that out. There was that, and there was about 5 or 6 other dog toys, but they were old, and I put them in a bag, and the trash pickup guy was coming, and I think I threw it, and I should have saved that one thing because it made the tree frogs respond so well. And here I'm showing you some of the other crepe myrtles hanging down from the same crepe myrtle tree. That's all from the same one tree, which is actually like more than one tree. And I'll show you the roots of it. Is this. I had that drying out over there, but this is the base of it, and this is good for people who are interested in botany and trees, especially. Like I planted, as I've said in my other videos, many trees before, and this is another view of the deck and my whirligigs. And Barney, hey Barn, I look over. Hey buddy. Okay. Oh, good boy. Okay. And so anyway, there's the crepe myrtle. We're back to that. And it's like millions of trees going up. Of course, not millions, but I'm speaking hyperbolically. A little exaggeration, a little bit there. But anyway, crepe myrtle leaning way back. But this was full of these crepe myrtle flowers, all puffing this. See, they're all almost dying right there now, but they were all over this thing. Big, fat, beautiful crepe myrtle flowers like those. I'm getting up kind of close, and these are the ones, like I said, these are wilting and they're almost dying, but it looks like some more will sprout there because it looks like some little baby buds of them right there. But that's what they look like, because it's sort of a phenomenon here in North Carolina. Like, that's why I started out talking about the white dogwood, because the dogwoods come out first, and they're like a big phenomenon because of all the white flowers. They really just cover these trees with white flowers. And there's the ones over there that I was talking about, my neighbor's crepe myrtles over there. Let's cut through the woods. I made this path through the woods here for walking the dog when we used to have the dog. And the dog didn't die, but after my wife passed away, the thing is, this is because I got out. Okay, I'm lying. Because I got out of Wi-Fi stream area. Okay, going back into the Wi-Fi stream area. Anyway, our house used to be right over here, and that was so great. That's the house across the street. But so this was all our backyard right here, and we had big gardens over here. We actually had a fence. There was a big giant tree right there, which is gone now. That got cut down. A few other trees, beautiful big trees that were over here, get cut down. But what you're looking at right now is exactly where our house was, right there. And we went away for a year, a little over a year, about a year and a half, because it was one of our dreams to live at the ocean and at the beach, and we'd never done that before. I'm working on a lawnmower, so my grass is really high right now, and I'm gonna do something about getting it cut. But oh yeah, I'm gonna keep walking up this way. The reason I came out here was to show you the crepe myrtle, the other side of the crepe myrtles. And my house kind of looks like shit right now, but it's always a work in progress. Anyway, like I said, our house that we really loved was over there, you know, where I was just showing you. But that burnt down when we came back from the beach. There were other people living there, and that burnt down. So what we did was, well, we moved into an apartment in Sharpsburg for a while, which is a town sort of next to here. Pretty nice little town. And Sharpsburg, North Carolina. It's between here and Wilson, North Carolina. And then this opened up, and so there was someone renting it. So then we decided just to move over here, move in here. And my wife's sister's house is over there. And so anyway, that's the other side of the crepe myrtle that I was just showing you on the other side of the house. But it is nothing now compared to how it looked a couple days ago. And like I said, I'm sorry I couldn't have filmed it out here then to show you, because it was brilliant, beautiful, beautiful colored. But you can get an idea of it anyway. And there's my back door. And you see it's got that duct tape on it. And the reason for that is because of Romeo, who I gave to those other people. I didn't finish telling that story, did I? Anyway, I brought Romeo to the veterinary at the shelter, and she was to talk about the situation with her face getting scratched and her going outside. And that's where we got her in the first place, was from that shelter. And then, like I said, those people came in and they really wanted a cat, and they wanted a black cat, and Romeo is a black cat, and she's little, and she's 8 years old, but you can see her in, like I said, about 12 of my videos. She's a little star. But so since I already have all the others over here, and it's getting hard for me at my age, and not so much my age, but you know, just being by myself over here and everything, and traveling a little bit, because I go between here and Alabama. And so I told them, I said, I happened to be over there with Romeo. I was getting her checked up. They wanted a kitty, and they were that's why they came to the shelter. And I said, well, Actually, I have a really good one right here because they seem like really nice, good people. They're a couple in like their early 30s, it looked like, and they really looked like they really wanted a cat to love and take care of. And, you know, so I told them, I said, I have Romeo's file right here that my wife and I started when we got her here 8 years ago. And here's the receipt for the check for $50 that we paid, because when you adopt a cat there, you have to give them $50, but then when you get it fixed, they reimburse you that $50 if it's not fixed when you get it. And so we did that, but I had the receipt for the initial check I had given them, so I said, I have the check here for the $50 for Romeo when we first got her, and she's fixed, and here's all the dates of her shots and when she got fixed and everything. She's clean, she's had regular flea treatments, and she's a really good kitty. I said, but and the shelter lady was right there too, and she was nodding her head, yeah, that's true. And she said, and he hasn't turned her over or anything, he just brought her here for a checkup, so you would not have to pay that $50. It would be basically just him giving you, him surrendering his cat Romeo to you now if you decide to take her. And so the husband looked at his wife in the doorway. Like I said, they're such nice people too, nice black couple, and they wanted a black cat, and he looked at his wife and she nodded her head and she said, yeah, I want her, take her, I want that one, and so he said, well, I guess Romeo's gonna have a new home because my wife wants her, so yeah, we're gonna take her. So I said, oh, okay. So I gave him the folder, and it just seemed pretty serendipitous. I miss Romeo a lot, and y'all can see her in all her videos, but I'm still taking care of Junior and Barney, as you just saw, and Max. I didn't zoom in on, but Barney and Max are like two old guys. They're two over there. I'll switch over to it. That is from Romeo's trick. I don't know how much I can zero in on that right now. It doesn't do too good. I don't know why my close-up thing isn't working too good. But anyway, on the door right there, Romeo had this trick where she went to that door. That's the front door, and she pulled it open with her claws. She pulled the screen door open and let it slam closed, and that's the way she knocked at the door. She really banged at it when she was doing that, but every time she did it, because that's a new screen I put in there because it was just glass, and I needed a screen in there. And because North Carolina is a pretty relatively warm state, it's a southern state, and so she really wrecked that screen, and that's not why I would have kept her, but that's why that duct tape's all over that door, because she really tore the hell out of that screen. Anyway, so now I'm coming up to my mailbox, which let's flip this back around. It got hit by a car a couple times. I did not initially put it here. Someone else did, and this is where the post was when we moved here. It's our mailbox. We bought the mailbox, put the mailbox on it, because that's the way it is. I don't know about all states, but in North Carolina, when you move anywhere, you have to bring your own mailbox. For a house like this, especially, when people move, they take their mailbox with them. And when you move somewhere, you got to put your own mailbox up. So the post was there, and that's where I put our mailbox. So anyway, after it got hit a couple times, I put all this reflective tape around the post and around it. But I left it on the tilt like that because why not? You can see it's been hit a couple times, but I figured people can see that too, and if anyone has anything they want to send me, I might as well put this little plug in now since I'm here. I I still don't have any kind of donate button or Ko-Fi or buy me a coffee or any way to, send me any support or, you know, $2 donation or anything like that. I still don't have anything like that set up on my site. So I'm just, you know, that's one good thing about me so far. It's all completely free, whatever you see from me and my channel. And so, but if you do want to send anything, a card or anything saying hi, I welcome any cards, letters. You can send it here to 2687 Oak Level Road, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And it is almost in Nashville, North Carolina. I always say Nashville, North Carolina, but it is. And my name, of course, is Jeffrey Quinn. I call myself Jeffrey Starwolf Quinn. That's my YouTube name. And so it's 2687 Oak Level Road, North Carolina. And that's what it looks like down the road. And that's what it looks like down the road the other way. It's just like, a road that you could see the Dukes of Hazzard driving General Lee down on. And you can go about. I say hi to everyone. Say hi to the people over here. Everyone's really friendly. See, he beat back. And let's wave to this guy too, see what he does. Hey. Okay. Anyway, it's a highway now too. That's another danger too for the kiddies around here. I unfortunately have lost a couple of them on this road before, and I didn't want anything like that to happen to Romeo either, or any of these guys. And they're smart enough to stay out of the road, and they stay out of the road, but that's another reason why she'll be safer wherever she goes, where she's going with those really nice people taking care of her. But the thing is, what they don't know, and I forgot to tell them, like I said, I told you the story about how I was at the shelter with Romeo in the crate, and the veterinarian looked at her over there because she had the scratches on her face and that white stuff, not stuff, but that white behind her ears and the thinning of the fur behind her ears. So the veterinarian was looking at her for that. And I was going to talk to the veterinarian about, maybe putting up her picture for someone for a new home for her or something like that, anyway. And so then I told you that story. So then the people came in, but and they ended up taking her. But I never ended up telling them that she is a star on YouTube. Basically, I mean, my channel isn't really famous. I've never gone viral or anything like that, but Romeo is in about 12 or 14 videos. This message is held for review. I have no idea what that message is. Oh, it says blah 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 blah, like they can't understand what I'm saying. Huh. Well, that's too bad. I hope people can understand what I'm saying. Maybe that's why I'm not getting anyone on here. I hope people can understand this audio. I mean, I'm just on my phone here, and anyway, I hope so. Had no way to test it, and when I've gone live with this phone like this before, haven't had any problem unless I had an external microphone attached. Then I had problem with the audio, but right now that's why I didn't even attach any lavalier mics or anything to it, because every time I do something like that, that's when problems can occur. When the less tech I use, when I just put it on go live like this, that's when I have the least amount of problems and when it works out the best. So I hope it's working out. I hope you all can hear me, but that's terrible. If you can't, you can't. But I hope you can, because that would be a shame doing all this time, and if none of you could hear me. If anyone out there can hear me, if you could send me a message letting me know whether they can hear me or not, or I guess if you can't hear me, then you don't even know what I'm saying right now. So, but if you can read lips or anything and you can hear me, please let me know, because I would really like to know, because I don't know, and I don't know if I'll ever know if someone doesn't put it in a comment. And this gub here message, it says held for review. I don't know what that is. All I can make out about it is, though, is, let's see, another moderator just handled this. Okay, I don't know what that means. Hide. All right, so get out of the way, you know. Remove. Anyway, okay, so it still should be recording. If you can hear me, please send a message. Let me know. Please let me know. If you can hear me and you're on your phone or tablet or laptop or whatever you're on, if you can hear me, please let me know, because I don't know. And I just got kind of a cryptic message that's indicating that people aren't understanding what I'm saying, which really sucks if that's true. Anyway, because I had a lot of business to do, but I decided to do this instead, since I haven't seen all my fans and friends for so long. I wasn't, as usual, I was thinking I'm not even doing YouTube anymore, because I don't know how much people like me or whatever are interested in anything that I'm saying. But I've gotten a few likes, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Those likes go towards watch time hours, which is a necessary requirement towards advancing it all on YouTube. And what I mean is, to advance on YouTube, usually it's from getting lots and lots of likes, or your videos, as they say, going viral, getting 1.5 million views or something like that in a short period of time. Then you can qualify to be in the YouTube Partner Program, which means that you almost automatically get a button where people can donate you, starting with $2, like a little tip button, or up to however much they want to put in. And you can do it without being in the partner program. You can put things like that on, but it's more difficult and time consuming and technical, and so far I haven't done it, but I didn't start in this for the money, and I'm still, of course, I'm not in it for the money. I have to be pragmatic here. I have to be practical about it. This isn't something that I would expect to get rich on. I'm not young and beautiful like, for example, Sherry Lorraine. Dynamic, beautiful, young, smart, eloquent, articulate, interesting, fantastic content creator. I could go on and on about her, and like Tessa of Always Slightly Sleepy, all the same thing, ditto, really. Beautiful, young woman, I would say in her early 20s. Brilliant minded, well-read, educated. I think I mentioned before, I think she's got a couple degrees from Baton Rouge in Louisiana, very, very good university. And anyway, she's such a fantastic content creator. But these are young, beautiful women, and unfortunately, I don't really fit in that category. So, I can do my what do you call live streams like this, and my videos, but I'm I'm no beauty queen, that's for sure. And I'm over here by myself, and so anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is I haven't really been in for the money or expected unrealistic expectations of getting rich or anything on YouTube. As great as it would be, you know. Um, See, I even put my teeth in to do this video. Well, the bottom teeth are mine anyway. Those are real. But I have these new top teeth. And that is another thing I wanted to talk about too on this live stream. Dentures. Okay. I didn't need really particularly to get these top dentures, but I looked like, and I'm going in right now. We're going in, Barney. Switch to Barney. Barney, hello, buddy. I'll bring you some new water, all right? I'll bring you some new food too. Okay, bud. You gonna look over and say hi? Barn. Okay, let's see. Here he is. Look over, bud. Buddy. Barney. That's a 98 Dodge Caravan back there. My wife and I traveled all over the country and put on a camper. I accidentally backed into the back of it the other day because my new truck here, the GMC, as I was backing it up, it's got this stupid feature on it that I hate, where all of a sudden the side mirrors start moving themselves when you're backing up. They start turning, they start moving, like it's anticipating where it should be as you're backing up. And I was like, what the hell? And I looked over and the stupid thing was moving by itself, and I've done everything to try to stop that because it does it all the time. And when I did that, just for that split second, bang, backed into the back of my 98 Caravan. So it didn't do any damage to the GMC, luckily, and but it broke the light housing on the 98 Caravan, so that's probably going to stay the way it is now, but that's all right. Anyway, okay, here we go back in. In we go. Take my state hat. NC State Wolfpack, yay! I'm a Wolfpack fan. That's North Carolina State College team. Wolfpack is what we're called, and that is like opposed to Duke or UNC, University of North Carolina, Tar Heels, or the Eastern Carolina Pirates. Turn that back around. Or look at that, hair's all messed up, and I have so much of it too. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm a Wolfpack fan. But getting back to it, I'm gonna get my tea over here. My throat's getting pretty bad. Getting back to what I was saying about my sickness, I had been doing really well. Everything was going good physically, as good as possible. I do have a little diabetes and pretty much under control because I lost a lot of weight. I lost, when things are going really well for you sometimes, and you have the most money that you ever had in your life, so even financially they're going kind of okay, and you're married and you got, doing stuff with the grandkids and the kids and going to birthday parties and going out to eat, and just life just going good. You live in a house, and sometimes you tend to gain a little weight, even though you're working hard, and everything. But especially as you're getting older, and maybe not working quite as physically hard as you always used to, but still, husbands always do a lot of work around the house, as far as I know. At least I always did, and everyone I know uh, did, you know. We all had the same motto here in the South, and it's probably not just a Southern thing, but and it goes like this: happy wife, happy life. And that's very simple, I know, and but it's true, your wife is your best friend, hopefully, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And your partner, your helper, your everything, your reminder of things, and the person who takes care. Oh, we can hear you. Thank you. Thank you. None of your business, G2. Okay, I just got the message saying thank you, none of your business. That's a really cool name. None of your business dash G2C. We can hear you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love you for that. That makes me feel so much better too. So well, so good. But okay, so I've left about 4 stories hanging now. Sorry, bad habit of mine. Especially this is unscripted. I don't have any notes or anything like that. Actually, I did make a little 3x5 card, but I don't know where I left it. And so, anyway, like I was saying, your wife is everything to you, and so when you're doing, you want to have a happy wife, happy life. Really does. It really is real, and it really works. It's really good. I advise anyone who is married to remember that saying: happy wife, happy life. Take her out to eat as much as you can. Do what she likes, whatever she likes. Make her happy, keep her happy. Because it's not that hard. And just, be a man around the house. Be a handyman is what I mean. Fix things. Listen to her. She knows you're not great at everything, but she always treated me as though I was, as though I was. You wouldn't believe the compliments she gave me all the time. I don't have all the cards up on the wall that I had when she first passed away, but she used to love putting up cards, but she always made cards for me for my birthday, for Father's Day, for everything like that, saying what a great husband I was and everything. And I always, gave her cards saying about the same thing. So we had all these cards all over the house, taped up. And I took most of them down now because it was a little depressing seeing them all the time. It's kind of good reminding me of it, but I don't need to be reminded of it anymore. I know the kind of life we had. And your spouse dying like that, I will tell you, not to change the whole subject or mood of this video, but it's the worst thing that happened to me. It's probably the worst thing that can happen to just about anyone. So if you know anyone whose spouse has recently passed away, they're probably going through a pretty bit of a pretty tough time. But it's been about 1.5 years for me, but that never goes away, And actually, that's how I kind of got started making videos on YouTube, but that's a whole nother story I'm not going to go into. I'm going to go back to how I got sick. Which I'm just getting better from now. I was visiting friends, like I had said, a couple friends in the hospital, and at the nursing home, her sister, my wife's sister, lived here beside me, and she had started getting dementia really bad, Alzheimer's. I was still visiting her, a few times a month, and I was always here for her. She was always happy that I lived here right next to her, and especially after Jackie, my wife, had passed away. And but it got to the point where the ambulance and the fire truck was coming over, the police over to her house lot, and evidently they had told me that she had been calling them a lot, and with different things, saying different things, like there was a man walking around in her yard or something like that, which there could have been, but a little bit unlikely, but it's possible. And anyway, the police officers came to my house and they asked if I knew her. I said, yeah, she was my sister-in-law for about 26 years almost, and still kind of is. I mean, that's when my wife was alive, but now it's been longer than that. So, and they said, does she have any trouble with her memory or something like that? I said, yeah, she has a couple little issues. And and then he told me, he says, because she's been calling us about 10 or 12 times a week. And then when we get here, she doesn't remember why she called. And mostly she doesn't even remember calling. But she doesn't want us to go. She has lots of things to tell us. She talks to us. But then she doesn't remember anything the second after she says it or the second after you say it. And I said, yeah, that's true. And I don't think I didn't go into too much detail with them, but whenever I did visit her for the past, couple of years, since, my wife died, about a year and a half, I knew I was going to say the same thing over and over and over again, because whenever I said something, this like second or moment after I said it, she would say, well, what about this? Ask me the same exact thing. And it got to the point where I would say, in a nice way, okay, well, I did just describe this to you 5 times, so this will be the 6th time describing it to you, but that's okay. Don't worry. I'll go over it with you again. You know, and so that's how I talked to her. I talked to her and visited her, but she laughed. She was nice. She's like, "Are you fussing at me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess it sounds like I am fussing at you a little bit. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be. No, I'm not fussing at you. I'm just saying, because there is drugs and stuff like that. There's treatment you can get." She's like, well, I can't take any medications. The doctor told me a long time ago. I said, I know, probably about 100 years ago, some doctor told you couldn't take any medication. So you've been saying and thinking that ever since. But the fact is, you might be able to, and so then it would be right back to, anyway, well, have you seen so-and-so or something like that? The same thing that I just went over with her 6 or 7 times. So anyway, but I didn't mind. So also, I just, besides visiting in the hospitals lately, uh, before this sickness started happening to me around July 1st, when the real hot spell started happening, and I had visited her so anyway, I didn't say this. The last time the ambulance did take her away because she had fallen on her cement patio and hurt her face, and she fell on her face, and she hurt herself. So they took her to the hospital, and her daughter lives way far away in like Wisconsin. I don't want to say for sure, but and the only other person she has around here now is her grandson, who was not really her grandson. It's her nephew, my wife's son, Brian. I shouldn't have even said his name, but anyway, he lives not too far from here. He lives about 20 miles away from here, but he don't really visit her anymore either because, well, she started accusing him of stealing her stuff, which he's not that kind of guy, and I'm sure he never did. And he never would do. And I know that he didn't. He's a really good guy. And I've known him for years and years and years. He was, like I said, sort of like my stepson, technically, for almost 30 years. And but that happens with the dementia and the Alzheimer's. People eventually, when it starts to progress a little bit, that disease, they start to be a little bit paranoid sometimes. That's a typical symptom, and they forget who they're talking to sometimes they forget who they're talking about, and they start sometimes to be a little bit suspect of even people, trusted family members, and even spouses. She doesn't have any spouse right now, and she didn't. But I've heard of this happening with people with Alzheimer's, and I've studied it. I've done studies on senior. I forget what it's called. See, I'm older too. I forget things too, but I even forgot things when I was younger, and I know that young people forget things sometimes too. And I've even heard some really smart younger people saying they thought they might be having a problem with their memories because they were forgetting things sometimes, stuff like that. And I made comment back to them, on my phone here, because I heard him saying it on YouTube. I made a comment. No, that's perfectly normal. That happens to everyone. Everyone forgets things, especially short-term things. Sometimes, especially geniuses like these people. And I reminded him, this one particular person, that in my comment, that she's in really good company because Einstein used to go for walks, and a few blocks away from his house, and then forget the way home. Be troubled and frustrated, and this is documented, and from his own admittance and everything. He'd go for a walk, and he'd look around and he couldn't remember exactly where he was, or he was so deep in thought before about the universe and mathematical formulas and brilliant scientific subjects. And then he'd look around and realize he was a little hungry. It was time for dinner, and he knew he went for a walk, but he wouldn't quite remember how to get home. And it would take him a while to get home sometimes. Or sometimes you might have to ask people for help. So that was Einstein, okay? So if y'all are troubled a little bit about forgetting things sometimes, don't worry about it. You're in good company, no matter what age you are. But anyway, gerontology is the word I was trying to think of. That is the study that I had been doing. Actually, when I was back in college 100 years ago, wait a minute, was it 1,000 years ago? I'm not quite sure. It was about 100 years ago, I guess, when I was still back going to college. I had electives to take. I remember towards the end, before I graduated with my second time, I had an elective to take, and I'm guilty, just like a lot of college people, when you need an elective and you want to get a good grade and you want to keep your good grades up and your GPA and everything. And sometimes there's a course someone tells you this is a pretty easy course, a pretty easy teacher, and you can get a pretty easy A. But if you do all your work, so I took a few courses in gerontology, and but it turned out to be very interesting. And I'm glad I did, because it kind of stuck with me. And it's interesting. If any of y'all ever get a chance to take any courses in gerontology, people are living for a long time now, more than ever in history of mankind. We have more what they call millennials now in the world than the history of mankind. And that means millennials means people over 100 years old. And I actually was listening to this comedian speak the other day. Oh my goodness, now I can't remember his name. But Louis C.K., I think, something like that. Louis C.K. He's an older guy. He speaks about political things sometimes. He's very brilliant. He's Jewish, and just commenting some facts about him that he brings up in his monologues and things sometimes, his stage shows. But anyway, I think it's like Louis C.K. And he was saying how his mom was 101 years old. And Lewis, he's about my age, a little older than me, actually. And when he did this, he's got a few videos out, and you could see him on YouTube. And he's really smart, he's really funny, and I would recommend him if you're looking for something to watch, a comedian that's kind of funny, especially if you want to see someone a little older like us, or like me. This Louis C.K., he does say the F word a lot, but that's the way it is nowadays. He probably, I'm sure in real life he doesn't talk like that because we weren't brought up that way. And it's too bad in a way. And you know how much I love the kids nowadays. They're fantastic. And when I say kids, I mean anywhere from the ages of, especially in their 20s and 30s. You know how highly I speak of all of them. I love them. I love them to pieces. I love them to death. They're my favorite heroes right now. But they were brought up with the F word, hearing the F word a lot, the F-U-C-K, And on TV, they portray that as though that was the norm, in these army movies about World War II, that they made anytime in the past 20 years or so. They have the soldiers cussing, using the F word a lot and stuff like that. And really, in real life, in World War II even, that era in the 50s and the 40s, people didn't use the F word a lot like that, even though they portray it on TV like they always did in every time in history. Yes, there always were people that did. The words were out there. They were always out there. But for the most part, in the 40s and 50s, people really didn't. That's the honest truth, because you would be labeled ignorant, by other educated, people and smart people, academic people, anyone who was like, somewhat cultured, normal person. They usually just don't go around saying, at the dinner table, pass the effing potatoes or something like that. It just wasn't, people didn't talk that way. And yes, like I said, the words were out there, and some people did talk that way. That's usually kind of the lower class. And I'm not saying anyone that talks that way now is lower class, because of course they're not. And it is part of today's culture, and that's the way it is. And I'm not putting it down, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it either. I'm just saying, when you see people in these movies made in the 40s, not made in the 40s, but you won't see it in movies made in the 40s or 50s, but I guarantee it. But movies that are made about the 40s and 50s now, fairly recent movies, and they have people cussing like that a lot, saying the F word a lot, that's not really realistic, because we really didn't talk that way. Anyway, but I really digressed on that one. Because, hey, Daniel Hunter says hi. Wow, and I don't have many people chiming in here, so thank you so much. That's fantastic. I'm so glad I can take all the likes and all the highs and all the comments I can get. Please comment all you can. And whenever, if I can read them, I will answer you all I can, as fast as I can. I have not gone live for a long time. Like I said, I had been sick, and I was just explaining that a little bit. So I don't know whether I got it from visiting to get away from talking about the F word and stuff like that. I don't know if I got it from visiting the hospitals, the nursing home, when I was visiting my sister-in-law in there, because there's a lot of sick people in there. And people aren't really wearing masks anymore. They have masks when you go in, and I took one, and I probably should have put it on, but I didn't, because no one else was wearing them, And so I just kept it in my pocket. And also, though, I I could have got it from the supermarket, are I'm sort of, you might not believe this, but I'm sort of a sociable guy when I'm in any store or the supermarket or anything like that, the grocery store. I tend to say hi to a lot of people, and a lot of people say hi to me, and certainly anyone that looks at me and says hi to me, and especially if they initiate any kind of conversation, I usually am happy to come back with a couple comments of my own, to I think it makes my day a little brighter, conversing with people like that. I don't I'm all alone here by myself. I don't really have much chance to talk with people anymore. So I may be a little overly too talkative. Some me. No, did I say that really? I don't know. Maybe I might be a little bit talkative, but anyway, that's usually a good thing for people going on YouTube. So I can't be too upset about that. Anyway, uh, so I could have caught the sickness anywhere, and I don't know why, but starting about July 1st, which is today's what, the 8th, about 8 days ago, I've been miserable. But I started having a sore throat all of a sudden. And it was like bad, then really bad. Then it hurt to swallow. I felt like I had strep throat or something like that. I felt like I had swollen glands. And oh, by the way my neck is like this, you know, it looks gross, I know, but it's not natural. And it's not just because the muscles in my neck are getting weak or anything like that, although I'm probably going to do some kind of neck strengthening exercises next time I go to Planet Fitness, or maybe even before that. But no, I had surgery on my neck there, and surgeon cut me from there all the way down there and all the way across there. He cut a triangle flat, and not to be gross, but I was unconscious, of course, when he did it. But he showed me it all, because nowadays you can see your whole surgery on a big screen, and they can show you what they did. They can actually show you the whole surgery, because a lot of times it's filmed as they're doing it, your surgery. And so I saw part of it, but he showed me on this big TV with pictures and stuff, everything that he did, and he cut a flap and opened it up there, and he used his tools to go in through my neck here and put 5 titanium plates in the back of my neck, in my spine, and then he closed that back up and he sewed it up, and it was tight like this for a pretty long time. I don't know if you can see the scar. Try to get closer, but that was called here I go again, I have to think about things. Okay, I had I had 5 lumbar surgeries, L4, L3, L5, all the L's down there. And this was called a, oh boy, if anyone can think of it, you can write it in, but, or comment it in, but I'm sure I'll think of it in a little while. It's, it's like cerebral. It sounds like that. The neck surgery, the higher up part. Oh boy. See, you always feel dumb when you can't think of things like that. But it's just a drawing a blank. It happens. And I think a lot of times, especially when it happens to these new smart kids on YouTube, or people that I know are very smart, and they say that they draw blanks, and it bothers them. It happens to everyone. It bothers to everyone. It happens to almost everyone. Especially people that think a lot and that talk a lot and that think about a lot of things really fast, like we do. But anyway, so that's why my neck looks like that. I'm a little self-conscious about it. But it's not just some old age gizzard thing or something like that. It's actually from surgery. So anyway, I started getting it on the 1st, July 1st, right at the beginning of the holidays. They were talking about it on the news. I was looking forward to going down to Atlantic Beach maybe for I don't travel that much, but for 4th of July holiday, and I know that it's a very well traveled holiday. It's not really a good time to be on the road, but actually on the 4th of July itself, they said on the news that that actually is not a bad time to travel because most people are at their destinations on the actual 4th of July. And actually, that one particular day out of the whole 4th of July week is not a bad time to travel if you don't mind, like, getting to wherever you're going late, and leaving kind of early to go home and beat the traffic too, or late. But anyway, I wasn't able to do that or anything like that. I couldn't go to the beach because I started off, it turned out not to be strep throat. It was some kind of bacteria. And it could have been a little bit of COVID mixed in. I still haven't been able to see a doctor about it. I tried to go to the medical center about it on the third day because it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. I was in bed. I was taking care of myself the best I could. I was by myself over here again, and uh, I was treating myself the best I could with stuff that I had here in the medicine cabinet that actually my wife had bought, that's been in there for years. So I guess it's okay. It was okay because it's medicine like NyQuil. So I had about 3/4 of a bottle of NyQuil. That's gone now. During the past 8 days, I used that whole thing. And I haven't had any kind of medicine like that in years, actually. Usually, if I do get a little sickness, like cold or something like that, I usually don't even take anything for it except just a lot of vitamins and, you know, like good food, um, oranges, fresh oranges, orange juice, um, natural things like that to fight any sicknesses that I have. And I usually don't really think of taking stuff like NyQuil or anything, but we've had it all this time and it's been there. And, but I went through everything I had in the medicine cabinet here practically. And, there was a point where I think it was about July 4th, on the 4th of July, where I had been so sick I didn't even have my TV on. I was just laying in bed, crumpled up mostly, trying to sleep, which I'm sick if I'm doing that. And but it went from that terrible strep throat feeling and sore throat, and I felt like I had swollen glands, but I guess I really didn't. The only thing I didn't really have was the temperature, and I kept looking up things on YouTube, symptoms and stuff. And it was 4th of July, so just about everything was closed. Even these walking clinics were closed. And I didn't want to go to the emergency room. I didn't want to go to the doctor. At one point, I called the ambulance just so the EMT could come over and take a look at me and check my vitals because I was that bad. I was that bad off. And I didn't want to just die here alone without have done anything about it. And so I called them and they came over and they were kind of upset with me because they wanted to take me to the hospital. But I told them, because the last couple times I got brought to the hospital over here to our hospital, I could say a lot of good things about a lot of great hospitals in North Carolina, but this one that we have here is going through some bad shit, as they say. It's going through some bad stuff. And it's like 3 big wings of it out of 4 wings are being completely renovated. They the staff is way low. And anyway, the last time I got brought there by an ambulance for heart problems and also a bad cut on my foot, I waited. They took me off the ambulance and they said, we're sorry to be doing this, but they took me off the stretcher and they put me in a wheelchair and they wheeled me into the emergency room waiting room from the ambulance. And I said, really, this is not good because, I'm actually here for my heart and I think I should be going to the heart center, which they have a real good one of. And they said, no, but we agree with you, but this is what they told us to do, so this is what we have to do. And I'm like, who told you? They said, the people that we check into when we call the hospital, the people that are running the hospital, they said, this is what we have to do with you. And they put me in a wheelchair. This is at Nash General Hospital in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And I sat in that waiting room for 3 days, actually, in that wheelchair. And luckily, someone had got me a blanket because I had gone through periods of being really hot and then really, really cold. But also, my heart had been giving me problems. I needed my, at one point, I really felt like I needed my nitroglycerin, which I practically never take, but I've had it for the past 2 years just in case I needed it, you know. And I didn't have my nitroglycerin on me because I didn't bring my medications with me like I should have, but I was taken by the ambulance from my home and brought over there, like I said, and put in a wheelchair and wheeled into the hospital emergency room where I sat for 3 days in that wheelchair as they triaged me out and took other people in ahead of me, which is okay. If other people are having more of an emergency than me, I don't mind. Go ahead, you know. But I think they should have been able to do better than that. But regardless of whether they were doing the best they could or not, I did not want to go through that again, because it went from that, when they finally brought me into the emergency room part in the back, that's when the real nightmare really started. So waiting in that waiting room, emergency room, waiting room for 3 days in that wheelchair after being brought in by an ambulance for heart problems and a cut on my foot, which is what they seem to only remember. And that was the best part of that trip to the hospital. When they brought me back and the doctors started actually asking me questions and going to treat me, like I said, that's when the real nightmare started. That's when it started to really actually get bad, you know. So that's terrible. If I was at, like I said, we've got some other great colleges here. I mean, they are colleges also, but hospitals here in North Carolina. We've got Duke Hospital. That's world renowned. It's a fantastic hospital up in Durham, North Carolina, not too far from here. We've got Wake Hospital in Raleigh. That's not too far from here, but it takes about 45 minutes to get there. And they're really fantastic. They've got world-renowned doctors and surgeons and everything. And we've got Chapel Hill, which you may have heard of, in North Carolina, which is a world-renowned, famous research university which was on the cusp of all kinds of cancer research and different kinds of research for different serious illnesses until, and I'm not going to get on the bandwagon here, but a little bit, until Donald Trump decided he was going to take all the funding away from all of our research universities in America because the rich people needed money more than our universities needed their funding. And he did it. And so he did do that. And that's a fact. You all can look it up if you want. And so, yes, that's part of the reason why this Nash Hospital is doing as bad as it is right now. And they're only on a skeleton crew because they lost all their federal funding, and any grants or anything they had, they pretty much were going to get, they lost that too. And any chance of getting that. Just like Trump did to the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. He took all their funding away too last year. And that's documented, and y'all can look that up too. I'm not just making that up because I don't like Trump or something like that. That's a fact. And he did it to Harvard too. Harvard University, where I'm originally from in Massachusetts. And the only thing is, it didn't work too good for him in Harvard. And he tried and tried really to shut Harvard down because it wasn't working that good. He stopped all the federal funding. Yeah, he was able to do that. He stopped all Harvard's federal funding for their medical research. And but it turns out Harvard college, Harvard University in Massachusetts, Cambridge, Mass. I think it's in Cambridge. Um, they are, it's MIT's in Cambridge, I'm not sure. But he did stop. He pulled all the federal funding for Harvard. But it turns out that Harvard is not only the most world renowned cancer research facility in America, in New England, and in America, it's the most famous and biggest, largest contributor for cancer research in the whole world. Harvard University is. And I am on a little bit of a soapbox here. I said I wasn't going to, but I will a little bit because this is pretty important. And Trump did this, you know, and he's done lots of terrible things. And there's so much more that he's doing right now with Erdogan that's so bad and so terrible that I could go into, but I'm not going to because this isn't a political video right now. But anyway, he pulled all Harvard's federal funding, which he did. But the rest of the world, our former allies, France and England, these countries that used to be our good allies before Trump took over the White House, you know, they were our allies in World War II. I'm talking about France, Italy, England, especially England, Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, you know, Wales, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, all the countries in Europe, Hungary, Poland, you know, and so they all know that Harvard is the foremost cancer research facility and highest producing cancer research facility, among other research, medical research things that they do. The world's foremost research facility, and they use their money to keep Harvard going, to make sure that Harvard did not get shut down, even as hard as Donald Trump was trying to shut them down. Because, of course, oh well, why not? You know, it's a thriving institution, great, wonderful institution in America that's helping the whole world, making America look good at the same time. So, oh, why would Trump want that? You know, make America great again. That was such a lie, and it always will be. Everything he's done has shown that he wants to destroy America from the inside as much as possible, and taking the funding, all the federal funding away from all of our medical research universities, including the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. That's just one area which proves that that is in no way trying to make America great at all. It's obvious to anyone, you know, and I know there's tons of intelligent people out there that already know that. So anyway, I started talking about that by talking about how, yes, as bad as Nash Hospital is right now, and I didn't want to go there, and I wouldn't go there. And I started saying, but we have some really fantastic other colleges and universities in North Carolina. That's how I got on that subject, that we still have them, even though Trump pulled all the federal funding. And this is for, you know, Chapel Hill and Duke and all our other good ones. I'm sure probably Eastern Carolina and every other college in North Carolina. But my favorite state, Wolfpack, NC State. Throwing a little plug for the Wolfpack. And so we have some great college hospitals here in North Carolina that, yeah, they're also colleges too. A lot of them, all of them really. And but I didn't go to any of them because I live real close to Nash General Hospital, so that's where the ambulances take you over here. And that's where these EMTs wanted to take me a few days ago. But I told him, I said, no, I just called you because I was dying over here and I wasn't sure if I was literally actually dying or not. And I, I have been taking my temperature and I knew I didn't have a high temperature, but I just really wanted some EMTs to check me. And it was 4th of July holiday, and nothing was open as far as medical facilities and stuff like that, except the hospitals. They wanted to take me to the hospital, and I wouldn't go to the hospital, so they left. They were kind of upset, and but thank you, EMTs, who came to my house and tried to take me to Nash. Anyway, I appreciate it. I appreciate your help. This is Jeffrey Starwolf Quinn here, shouting out, saying you guys are great, and thank you for trying to bring me to the hospital. But and thank you for coming over and checking on me anyway. But anyway, so back to what I was saying. I was sick from July 1st to today, which I still am a little bit. This is July 8th. And I haven't done any live streams or anything for a long time. And like I said, I published a few videos that I already had made. But since I've been sick, I really haven't been able to do much of anything at all, except try to get better. And where is, let's see, I have to hold on a second. Like I said, I've never been able to pause a live stream. Let me see. No, I don't think that paused it. But anyway, right now, and I don't mean to be gross. I know this seems a little bit gross, but I have to wipe my nose a little bit because I haven't taken any drugs or anything today. I mean, so far, before I took this video or anything, but I think I might have to take some NyQuil or something a little bit. I definitely need some cough syrup. But anyway, I had to wipe my nose there a little bit, so thank you for bearing with me for that. Let's go back out. I'm getting to the end of this live stream, wrapping it up. About 5 of you showed up here. That's nice. That's good. As far as I can see, you you all are the top fans right now, and I appreciate it so much. I got 8 likes. Thank you. If I could get any subscribers, if any of y'all like anything you heard and you want to subscribe, please do. I can use all the subscribers and certainly all the likes I can get. Thank you for those 8 likes. I am thrilled. It's actually the most I've ever gotten. And like I always say, I try to say interesting things. I try to impart my wisdom of the years, or some of you might not call it wisdom. You might think I'm an idiot. And, you might be right. But I try to say interesting things. I try to say decent things, and interesting, though, mostly is the point. So the one last thing I guess I can say, which has kind of been on my mind, I was thinking about it yesterday. Let's go sit down in my chair while I'm saying this, I guess. Coming into the living room. Here we go. We're into the Jeffrey Starwolf living room. And we'll sit down in one of my chairs. I need to have a sip of my tea. This is honey tea. And let's give you a sip of it too. Here you go. I'll hold it up for you. I'll hold why isn't it show? There it is. There's the straw. That's not working. Oh, here we go. Okay, there's the tea. You have a sip too. There. Okay. Anyway, I'm trying to give you a sip of my tea. But this is honeyed. It's Louisiana sweet honeyed peach tea. That's one thing I have in here. And I also have a green tea and a 2 different kinds of green tea and a black tea. And but I love that Louisiana honeyed peach tea. Also, that makes it taste really good. Okay. Now, this, well, usually people have something to talk about when they do a live stream. And I didn't really pick anything to talk about. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking, boy, my friend, this woman that I talk about sometimes, Tessa, had all these great things to talk about on her live stream yesterday, or the day before yesterday. And she has thousands of people. She has like 700,000 subscribers, and she has 3 different channels, and they're all very, very good and popular and fantastic. And but she had something all planned out to talk about, and everything, which you should have, but I didn't. But this is something I have been thinking of. If you stack, let's see, I've never been really great at math. It hasn't been one of my greatest subjects, although I've always loved science and I've always had a great respect for math. But let's see. Just to put things in perspective a little bit. I'm back in my bedroom again now. You know what? Next time I do a live stream, I am going to put my 2 microphones on and try to make use of the computer so I can get it on the computer, so I'm on the laptop, going through the laptop while I'm doing this. Because right now I'm just doing it on my phone. I'm doing the best I can because I've been sick and everything. But now I'm going to sit down on my bed while I'm talking about this, because I am starting to feel pretty worn out now, but I don't want to just end the stream like this. So what I was saying was math, okay? To put things in perspective, money, paper money. If you stack paper money, let's say dollar bills, if you stack $10 bills up, well, you know how thick that is, right? $10 bills, it's practically nothing. You can put 20 of them in your wallet, and then it might puff out your wallet a little bit, but it's still not that much. So, but if you do, so then you do about $50 bills. Well, that'll puff out your wallet a little bit more. That's getting a little bit thick, but that's few fractions of an inch. And so let's say you do $100 bills. So you got $100 bills stacked up. Well, that's not that much, but that's maybe about as big as a couple of your fingers there, right? And then you go, well, okay, well, what about 1,000? So you stack $1,000 bills up, one on top of another in a row. Okay, that's a little bit bigger. Well, let's say, what if we stack $1 million bills up? $1 million bills, paper dollar bills, one on top of another. And let's just say freshly minted, you know how they stick right together, flat dollar bills. You have 1 million freshly minted dollar bills stacked up all the way up. Let's say we have this magic pole that we can put it up against so it doesn't fall down. It stays, it's in a case, like it stays up, all one on top of each other, $1 million. Wow. Well, how thick would that be? How high would that be about? Well, if you had $1 million bills stacked up on top of each other, that would be about as high as a 30-story building. Not a 3-story building, a 30-story building. $1 million bills stacked one on top of another all the way up in a magic way, so it stays up and they don't fall down, they stay up straight. Now, a telephone pole is about 30 feet high. Approximately, most telephone poles are about 30 feet high. And that's about as high as a 2-story building, maybe. Okay? So, let's say about 15 telephone poles, one on top of another, going up and up and up and up and up all the way up. That's about what a 30-story building would be. I don't know. I lived on the 11th floor once in Lowell, Massachusetts. That's next to the Merrimack River in this nice building. And that's the highest up I've ever lived anywhere. It was in an apartment in my younger days. And I was working for a Goodwill company, actually, helping people with disabilities as a job developer. But anyway, so I lived on the 11th floor. And back at that time, that was pretty cool. My friend lived right across from me. He's the one that found the apartment for me, that told me about it. And he was my partner at work. And great guy. So that was the 11th floor. And I remember back then I was in my 20s. And we had an elevator, and I would never take the elevator. I loved running up and down those steps, and that was a lot of steps going up to the 11th floor. You know, it was up one flight, and then a little landing, and then another flight, and a landing, another one. And I used to run up those things like at least two steps at a time. I don't think I could reach 3 steps at a time, but I'd do most of them 2 steps at a time. And I always did that because I was a mountain climber too. I climbed every mountain, and not to brag, I'm just saying because, you know, I am older now and I don't look like as much as I used to and everything. But, you know, I did used to love mountain climbing, and when I lived up in, I lived in Massachusetts, but I actually grew up in New Hampshire before that even. And I just loved mountain climbing in New Hampshire. And even when I lived in Massachusetts, I still went mountain climbing in New Hampshire in what we had up there called the White Mountains. And that consisted of what is known as the Presidential Range, which had all the presidents, or a lot of the presidents. I never counted to see if it was every single one. It probably wasn't, but it was lots of them. It might have been all the way up to Mount Washington. Mount Washington being the highest one, and it's the highest mountain in the Northeast, which means like north of North Carolina. And because there are about 6 mountains in North Carolina higher than Mount Washington. But Mount Washington, 6,288 feet. And that's a number I'll never forget because I climbed it so many times, and it's just something you don't forget. And the top of Mount Washington has the highest recorded wind speeds in the world, and that you can look up in the Guinness World Book of Records. It was in the Guinness World Book of Records. Now I'm not saying it has the highest wind speeds of any mountain in the whole world, but it does, and it did have the highest recorded wind speeds of any mountain in the world. Which they have a weather station up there, and they record winds and things like that. So, Mount Washington, that's one of the factors about it. It had the highest recorded wind speeds of any mountain in the world. And like I said, probably in the Alps, somewhere in the top of the Alps somewhere, they may have higher wind speeds occurrences at times, but they weren't the highest recorded wind speeds in the world. They were at the top of Mount Washington in New Hampshire, which I climbed on New Year's Eve day, and when there was 6 feet of snow on the ground when I was 18 years old. So I do have some fun, cool accomplishments that I did when I was younger. And so getting back to living on the 11th floor in Lowell, Massachusetts, it was pretty high up, and I used to love running up and down those steps and screw that elevator, you know. Anyway, I'd use the elevator, I suppose. I think I remember I used it moving in, and maybe if I had groceries to bring up or something like that. But mostly I ran up and down those 11 floors of steps, which is a great way to stay in shape. And but that was pretty high, 11 stories. But if you have $1 million, getting back to my story, stacked up $1 million, one by one, $1,000,000 bills. It's as high as a 30-story building. Now, to put that in perspective, I said math. It's kind of like math. It is involved. I'm involving numbers here, so. But it's a matter of putting things into perspective. So $1 million, $1 bills stacked up one after another is about as high as a 30-story building. Okay, how high is that though? 30-story building. Okay, Jeff talked about being an 11-story apartment being up kind of high. Mount Washington, 6,288 feet. Mount Mitchell in North Carolina is the highest one. That's 6,683 feet. A little bit higher than Mount Washington, not too much. And but those are the mountains on the East Coast. Of course, that's the the Rocky Mountain. I mean the Smoky Mountains here, the Appalachian Range in eastern North America, which runs from Maine all the way down south. The Appalachian Trail, of course, goes from Mount Katahdin in Maine, or it ends up in Mount Katahdin in Maine, and from Georgia, and all the way from Georgia, all the way up to Mount Katahdin in Maine is the Appalachian Mountain Trail. And these, of course, are the Appalachian Mountains I'm talking about right now, that go all through Virginia, North Carolina, well, from Maine all the way down to Georgia. And they're also the Smoky Mountains in the south are a great big part of that Appalachian Mountains. And the Blue Ridge Mountains, which we have made famous here in North Carolina because of how they look kind of blue when you're looking across the top of them, especially if you're on the Blue Ridge Parkway or on top of any one of those mountains and you're looking out across the other mountains, you see this sea of trees, and the sky and all the clouds. And you can see why they call it the Blue Ridge Mountains, because it's a bluish hue kind of most of the time between the sky and the clouds and all the trees and everything. So anyway, we've got the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are also part of the Smoky Mountains, which are part of the Appalachian Mountains, which the Appalachian Trail is a part of here in eastern North America. But of course, the Rocky Mountains in a little bit of the western part of America, sort of the central western part of America, Colorado, of course, some pretty big mountains in New Mexico, Utah, got some giant mountains, fantastic ski areas, Aspen. Well, Aspen is in Colorado, of course, but Utah's got some great ski mountains too, and some high mountains, and part of the Rocky Mountains. And the Rocky Mountains going all the way up through the states to Idaho, and I know that parts of eastern Washington state get up pretty high. I don't know if any of those get to be part of the Rocky Mountains, but I would assume that some of them probably do. And of course, they have Mount Rainier and everything, and Oregon has Mount Hood, which are famous mountains, which are pretty close to the Rocky Mountains. But anyway, I always wanted to climb Mount Hood. My cousin, who I used to always go climbing with, who I talk about sometimes, who was the Eagle Scout, who taught me everything I know about mountain climbing and wilderness survival. And I'm not even going to go into all that because it's just going to sound like bragging. But he climbed Mount Rainier, and he did end up getting a slight little bit of altitude sickness when he was way up top there. You have to have an oxygen tank. And he thought he was a little bit more invincible than he was, or he just wanted to find out a little bit how high you really have to be to employ a little oxygen tank. And he did find out, and apparently you get a little bit like a drunk kind of symptoms when you start to get that altitude asphyxiation. I'm not sure of all the scientific terms for it, but altitude, high altitude sickness. So when you climb Mount Rainier, that is high enough that when you get close to the summit, most humans do need a little oxygen supply of some kind, you know, so they don't succumb to high altitude sickness. Anyway, that might be part of the Rocky Mountains. I'm not sure. But the Rocky Mountains do kind of even dwarf the Appalachian Mountains, which we have here in the East. And see, I have yet to go out there and climb those, and I really want to climb those. And I've seen one of my, dare I say, colleagues. I'm not even near her category, or would I even consider myself probably ever even close to be, is I've seen some of Miss Sherry Lorraine's, the famous Miss Sherry Lorraine's videos, and when she was in Colorado, and she has a video of her on a mountain with a moose going by and then getting into this pond and swimming across, and that is on a mountain in Colorado. And I am so grateful to her for making that video. It's such a fantastic video. It's humorous, it's funny, it's really it's really well made, and she's got messages in it that actually are profound. Really, really good for a young lady. You know, she has always been so far ahead of her time, but I know I am digressing, and I am but I just wanted to throw a little shout out to Sherry Lorraine while I was at it, because if you all are familiar with any of my other videos, I do consider that she saved my life once after my wife died, because I was on a very downhill spiral and I was starving to death, and I had no appetite whatsoever and no intention to ever eat again. Or, I was just drinking juice sometimes, mostly water every 4 or 5 days. You'd be amazed how long you can go without water, and especially without food. People say you die without food after 5 days or something like that. Not true. I went for days and days without food. I kept losing weight. Of course, I was big before my wife died. At one point in my life, when I was talking about before, when things were going really good, when I had the most money that I ever had in my whole life, and I won't say how much it was, but my wife and I were doing quite well. We were going out to eat all the time, and or at least having restaurant meals, and like I was saying, eating very well, and we didn't lack for anything. We lived in a nice house in Asheville, North Carolina, and I weighed almost 300 pounds at that point, believe it or not. I weigh 170 now, about 180 pounds right now, and that's after I've gained the weight back, because I was really losing a lot of weight. Like I said, I wasn't eating, and this wasn't supposed to be, this video is a tribute to Sherry Lorraine, but it's my streaming video. So, as they say, and as she says, and as all the greats say, my streaming video, I can say whatever I want, And I'm trying to entertain you, but everything I'm telling you is true, as far as I know, to the best of my ability, and it is. And I'm trying to keep it interesting, and I'm still on my $1 million stack high story. I haven't gotten away from that yet. But that's how I got talking about the height, how high $1 million is stacked, one on top of another. And I started talking about the Appalachian Mountains, and then I started talking about how the Rocky Mountains dwarf the Appalachian Mountains here in America. And that's how I started to talk about how beautiful Miss Talented Sherry Lorraine has a video of when she lived in Colorado, a wonderful video about on a mountain in Colorado. And it's one of the Rocky Mountains. So And so I might as well finish up what I was saying about her and how she sort of saved my life since I started that. So I wasn't eating. I didn't plan on eating anymore. So no reason to stay alive. My wife was dead. She was gone. Um, it was horrible. It was totally unexpected. I mean, yeah, she had gotten sick a few years before that with problems with her intestines and stuff that she never had before, you know. But I brought her, she had a surgery at Duke. She went through that with flying colors, supposedly really, really well, better than any patient. The doctors said she was, she went through it really great. And, they saved her and everything. And then, you know, she also had the same type of surgery at Chapel Hill. I brought her over there. I spent almost a month over there with her in the hospital having surgeries, and she had surgery at Eastern Carolina, and she had surgery at Nash Hospital with a great surgeon over there, though. And that's before Trump started pulling all the funds away from all the hospitals in America and everything, and all the good institutions in America. Um, but anyway, so my wife did have many surgeries, but she went through them all, and all the doctors said she went through really well and she was doing good. So I thought she was doing great, but then she died, you know, one day, and it was really unexpected to me, and I lost my appetite like that. I can't snap as good as I used to. But it's strange. I didn't think about it or anything like that. I just had no appetite anymore. I had no desire to eat anything, no urge to eat anything. I didn't want to eat anything. And I wasn't eating anything, and why, And I really wasn't drinking anything either. And I was trying to do things, you know, the best I could, but mostly it was, you know, taking care of her funeral and stuff like that. And then after that, and then you're alone at your house, and I was. And it's not much of a house, but it's here. We walked around a little bit of outside a little while ago. And so the thing is, I don't own this land. I own this house that's on the land, or it's a mobile home, which I call a house, we call a house. It was our house, one of our houses, our last house that we lived in, because of convenience, and it was where we wanted to live. And it's not bad, It's certainly big enough, more than big enough for just me. But anyway, so we lived here with the dog and the 5 cats and all the possums that we took care of and raised from little babies and all the other wild animals. Like I said, she was a wildlife rehabber, and there were always some kind of wild birds or animals in cages or not in cages in this house at all, So even though it was a mobile home, it worked out pretty good for us, and it's a sort of a hospital house for a lot of wild animals too. We had she brought owls in here, 2 or 3 different owls, and she named everything she brought in. She ran in one time with an owl in her arms, get set the cage up, set the big, dog cage up. I said, what do you got there? It's an owl. I said, did you name him yet? It's Screech. Yeah, so she named him right off. She always named them all right off. So she took care of him. It had broken wing and it couldn't fly, and it had fallen out of the nest. And it was on the ground at the bottom of the tree. God knows how she found these animals, how she located them, and how she got them in so fast. But she did. She was an incredible woman. And I showed you some good pictures of her. And let's see. There's another picture of her over there. Okay, I guess we're zoomed in. Anyway, there's another picture of her. There's the river fox. That's her Cherokee name. And there she is down there. We went on another trip we went on. We're at the river in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania over there. And that's just at home. And there's she and I. Remember, I was telling you how I weighed almost 300 pounds. Well, that was right there. And that was when we were in, she was getting pretty hefty too. That was when we were on the coast of Oregon. We had gone all the way up and down the coast of Oregon. We loved it. Beautiful state. We particularly loved the town of Newport, a seaport town in Oregon. And if anyone goes to Oregon or lives in Oregon for a while, like, of course, I can't not say my great lady who I love, Tessa, always slightly sleepy. She stays in Oregon sometimes or lives in Oregon half the time. That's not really Newport right there, but it's not far from it. That's on the coast of Oregon somewhere. But we loved Newport, Oregon, and I have some stories about that, and I have, of course, stories about everything, you know. But there she is again, and there's her and I in Crescent City, California. We were at a seaside. No, it may have been in Oregon, but it was a maritime museum, and they had this big Jaws shark there, and you could actually get into its mouth. As you can see, we are right there, and you can see how big I am there. That's what happens to you sometimes if you have a lot of money. You're kind of rich, you know, and you eat out at restaurants all the time, and you can have any food you want anytime you want, and you're happy, especially if you're really happy, you know, and you know, you're married and you got a great wife and you consider it a great life. And sometimes you gain weight like that, you know, even though we were very active, you know, but as you can see. But anyway, that's the woman that was fantastic at taking care of animals and wildlife, having animals. There's another picture of her at our place in Morganton, North Carolina. She was, of course, dressed as a witch during Halloween time there, and there's our little fireplace we had there on the second floor. That was we had a big living room on the second floor, and that was a cool place. But anyway, I'll put this down here. And we lived a lot of different places, and since I'm at it, I might as well show you her here in, this is Cherokee, North Carolina. This is not, the picture's not coming in that good, but this is the river at Cherokee, North Carolina. It's full of trout. You can pay the Native Americans to fish there if you want to, and, you know, catch their trout. And we used to stay in our camper at campgrounds over there. We were staying at the KOA campground in Cherokee, North Carolina at the time. I highly recommend that. That's a great place. It's right in a valley with mountains, big mountains all around in Cherokee, North Carolina. And anyone who's even near there in northern Georgia, especially Sherry, if you're out there anywhere, somewhere, you know, you can go to Cherokee and visit, and it'll be a cool place to visit. But anyway, so that's my wife, Jackie, in Cherokee, North Carolina. And I'll take that picture away. This is us at our helicopter. Yay, yes. And that is also in Cherokee, North Carolina. And I do not have a helicopter now. And, you know, it's a fun thing to have, though, I'll tell you. Anyway, that's her and I in front of the helicopter in Cherokee. You can see how big I was there, too. And those were happy days, happy times. Anyway, no more helicopter. And so, back to me. And as I was saying, my old 65-year-old me now, those pictures, I was in my early 40s in those pictures probably. Yeah, when I got that big, I was I was in my late 40s. But anyway, so back to the story of the stacked up $1 million bills. As I said, to put things in perspective, and I'll try to tie it all together a little bit at the end. This is the longest video I've ever done before. I hope it's still going on. I think it is. But you know, a streaming video should, as an average, is 4 or 5 hours long. You know, a lot of times 2, 3, 4 hours long. You know, and I really haven't really done one that's much too many that are much more than an hour long. You know, and you know me, I can never think of anything to say. If you can believe that. If you can believe that, I'll sell you some land in Florida, maybe a bridge or two, right? So anyway, I really love you all out there. I love messing with you so much, you know, and talking with y'all. I'm glad I'm alive. You know, I made it through this big sickness. It was a horrible sickness, and I don't want to have a relapse. Right now, you know, as you saw a couple times, I had to blow my nose. I'm still having it a little bit, but so anyway, back to the $1 million bills stacked up. So if you stack up, as we established, $1 million $1 bills stacked up one on top of each other, you know, in a magic way, so they stay and they don't fall down or anything like that, and they're nice and straight up. 1 million $1 bills, about as high as a 30-story building. Which is about as high as maybe 16 or 17 telephone poles stacked one on top of another. So that's $1 million. As we know, Donald Trump has a lot more than $1 million. He has billions of dollars. I mean, he made, what was it, $16 billion just last year on his crypto scheme. And when so many people lost so much money, what does he care? You know, but because he made tons and tons of money on that scheme. And he still is. And that's billions and billions of dollars. So $1 million is as high as a 30-story building, stacked one up on top of another like that. How about $1 billion? I wonder how high $1 billion would go if we were to stack $1 billion one on top of another. I hope I'm not boring anyone out there, but if I am, you know, there's plenty of other stuff to watch on YouTube, but I hope I'm not. And I hope this is interesting and maybe a little bit funny to some people. I don't know. But it's anyway, so we're at $1 billion now. We did the millions as high as 30-story building, as high as 16 or 17 telephone poles stacked one after another. $1 billion. Well, let's see. Do you know if you stack $1 billion dollar bills one after another, up, and up, $1 billion, and we have some magic way to make it stay up so it stays up nice and straight, doesn't fall down. $1 billion. How high is that? What does that compare to? How high does that come to? Anybody guess? Any guesses? Anyone want to write in any guesses? Please comment. You know, if anyone's listening out there at all, top fans, anyone, $1 billion, how high would it come to? $1 billion $1 bills stacked one on top of another. We know $1 million is about as much as a 30-story building. Now we're talking about $1 billion. $1 billion $1 bills stacked one on top of another. That would be about 10 times higher than Mount Everest. Mount Everest, one of the highest recorded mountains in the world, in I think it's a Himalayan mountain. But Mount Everest, the one that all the mountain climbers climb, known as, pretty commonly known as the highest mountain in the world. I think there actually are higher mountains in the Himalayas that haven't even really been recorded, you know. But what did I say? Mount Everest is pretty well regarded as one of the highest mountains in the world, if not the highest, and certainly a pinnacle of most mountain climbers, people who are really serious about mountain climbers to climb. Many mountain climbers have died trying to attempt to make it to the summit of Mount Everest. And anyway, Mount Everest is 20. It's almost 30,000 feet. It's 29,320 feet. Mount Everest. Okay, that's, and again, to put things in perspective a little bit, Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and that top of the Appalachian Trail, the highest mountain in eastern North America, is 6,288 feet. Mount Mitchell in North Carolina is, let's see, that's 6,683 feet. I've climbed both them, several times. And so Mount Mitchell, 6,683 feet. But Mount Everest is almost 30,000 feet. Mount Everest is 29,320 feet. And $1 billion stacked one on top of another, going up and up and up and up and up, straight up, not wobbling, not being blown around or blown away, but straight up in the stack, would be 10 times higher than Mount Everest, than the peak of Mount Everest. From sea level to the top, Mount Everest is almost 30,000 feet. $1 billion stacked one on top of another is 10 times higher than that. Now, you can look it up if you don't believe me. It's hard to believe. I hope you do look it up. I don't know how you would look it up, but I guess you could look it up on YouTube, and see what the consensus would be. I would love people to do that, because I usually don't have much of a theme when I go on my live streams. I just go on and I talk, and can't imagine me just going on talking like that. But anyway, so like I said, I'm glad to be alive, I guess. And I never did finish my story about Sherry Lorraine, did I? So anyway, after my wife died, and I wasn't eating or anything like that, and I wasn't just drinking water every 4 or 5 days, I'd guzzle like as much water as I could because I'd be really literally dying of thirst. And I like how so many people, I keep digressing, but I have to. Literally the word literally is the most misused word in the English language. And let's see, what is it followed closely by? I don't know, but there's another one that's followed closely by. But literally is the most misused word in the English language. Do you know what literally means? Does anyone know what the word literally actually means? And I'm saying this because I know that most people in America and in the world really don't know what the word literally means because they say it wrong all the time. They use it wrong. I'm talking about announcers on TV, people with English degrees in the English language, TV announcers, TV commentators, even some scientists and famous writers on TV use the word literally wrong. I'm sorry. It's ironic, but it's true. It's very true. Literally basically means almost. If you want a one-word definition for the word literally, you can use almost. It's probably not what it says in the dictionary, but it's pretty darn close. But I'll tell you what it does say in the dictionary. If you look up the word literally in the dictionary, it says not exactly, not. It means it's not the thing you're talking about, but it seems like it. Or another dictionary is like it, that's a literal thing. It means that that's not what it is, but it seems like it. It seems a lot like it. So that's what literally actually means, folks. And I know there's a lot of you out there, sure, there's millions of you out there that do know this already, you know. But I always get a little laugh out of it, when I hear people, especially on YouTube, saying over and over and over again, literally. And when I hear even like a weatherman, I heard a weatherman on TV saying, it's literally raining cats and dogs out there. Literally. And I was thinking, this is an educated man. He's a weatherman on TV. He's got to have some college degree, you know. And here he is using the word literally completely wrong. Because, of course, if it was literally raining cats and dogs outside, that means there would be actual animals falling out of the sky onto the ground all around. That's what literally raining cats and dogs means. That's what literally means. If something literally um, is literally, it means that's not really what it is. Literally, it means that's not what it is. Okay, literally though, I think I got a little confused. Literally means that's exactly what it is. If you say something that's literally what it is, it means that's exactly what it is. But so literally means that's exactly precisely what it is. So if you say it's literally raining cats and dogs, that means that there are actual animals, cat animals and dog animals, falling from the sky, hitting the ground. Because that's actually what literally means. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. I was mixing it up with that other word I was talking about. But literally means precisely what it is, what is actually, truly, really happening. That's what literally means. I was mixing it up with the other most misused word, which is not even coming to my mind right now. Oh well. I know. My mind draws blanks like that too. But anyway, so you look it up though. Look up the word literally and the dictionary definition for the word literally, and you'll find that most of the time when people on TV and even probably on YouTube use the term literally, it's not really literally. Like the weatherman that said it's literally raining cats and dogs. It's not literally raining cats and dogs. It means, because to be literally, that would be precisely what it's actually doing. And and there's another word for it, what it actually is. That I can't think of the name of right now. But I will correct myself and look that up after this is over, because I don't want to waste any more of anyone's time. But anyway, but if you literally stacked up $1 million bills, one on top of another, a billion, up to a billion, it would be 10 times higher than Mount Everest, which is almost 30,000 feet. So it would be almost 300,000 feet. Now, Mount Everest is 29,320 feet. 29,320 feet, Mount Everest. Now, most of you who fly have heard the captain say, we're cruising at an altitude of 27,000 feet, or about 26,000 feet. If you're used to flying, that when you get up there and you're leveled off and you're above the clouds a little bit, and you're looking down and everything on the ground looks like patches. It's really cool. I love flying. And you're going over the different states and everything, especially like on a flight from the East Coast to the West Coast or back, and or anything really. I mean, I've flown from here, from Raleigh to Charlotte, and then we had to fly up to Cincinnati. This is just because my wife and I wanted to, we like to save money. When we flew out to Eugene, Oregon one time, we lived in Asheville, North Carolina, and we flew from the Asheville airport. Asheville actually has a pretty cool little airport that flies, I think they fly all over the world, but they certainly fly all over the United States. And so we wanted to fly to Eugene, Oregon. And on that flight, we had to fly from Asheville, North Carolina, to Charlotte, North Carolina, then up to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I think we changed planes. And then from Cincinnati, we had to fly. This is funny. From Cincinnati, we had to fly to Salt Lake City, Utah, which we had a 3-hour stopover at. And we had to change planes at that. And I remember we had to go way over on the other side of the airport to get on the other plane there. And that's why I know there's some really big mountains in Utah, because we stopped and looked at them from the airport windows for a while. And they're really cool, they're really big, they're really nice. And also there's some great ski areas in Utah too, and other high mountain activities. But anyway, so then we went from Cincinnati, Salt Lake City, Utah, 3-hour stopover in Utah. We went from Salt Lake City up to Eugene, Oregon. So we finally landed in Oregon, and that was great. We were on about three or four different planes, just to go over there from Asheville, North Carolina. And but it was great. It was cool. It was really the great days of my life. And my wife and I, we had a blast doing it, and we had a lot of fun. And anyway, I'll never forget all that. So I love Eugene. I love Eugene, Oregon. I talked about Newport, Oregon before on the Oregon coast. That was our favorite, Newport. But and then I have a lot more stories about that, but I won't tell them now because I'm still talking about my $1 billion high stacked up dollar bill story, believe it or not, even though I digress like this. Anyway, so we're in Eugene, Oregon, and there's another town not too far from Eugene called Corvallis, and that is a college town in Oregon, and that's a beautiful town, and that's a great town too. And I recommend anyone spending any time in Oregon, like Miss Tessa, wink, wink. Anyway, if you get a chance to stop in at Eugene, Corvallis, Newport, especially, um, anywhere up and down the coast of Oregon, I certainly recommend. You probably already have. Anyway, this person that I talked about, that I've talked about many times before because I love her so much, the Always Slightly Sleepy person channel on YouTube. She is way more famous than me. I'm not famous, but she is on such a high level. She is a YouTube star. She's a star. She is a star on YouTube, and she is an ASMR star. But she's going way past that, and so I threw that little shout out to her because I know she lives in Oregon. I believe she's in Oregon right now. But and I love her stuff, all of her stuff, and I recommend it to anyone and everyone. And so she just gave me a little bit of love and a little emblem on YouTube for my channel that I posted to my channel, which I'm so honored by because she is on such a great amount, tier higher than me and higher than I may and probably will ever reach on YouTube. But I love her so much. I can't say enough great things about her. Hi, Tessa. Anyway, if you ever watched this, you probably won't watch any of my videos. But anyway, so getting back, and since we're talking about that, getting back to how Sherry Lorraine saved my life, in case you know her, she's another one I highly recommend. I told you about her. We got on talking about her because of her video of Colorado, the Colorado mountains, and her hiking in the Colorado mountains, which is part of a fantastic role play video that she is just awesome. She's probably the best role play, certainly one of the best role play video makers in all of YouTube and all the world. There are others that invest maybe more money into costumes and sets and things like that, like Dreamscape, who are really good, who I, can never say anything bad about, and she does some ASMR too. But Sherry really does a lot. She did a lot on her own, just by herself, and the role plays that she came up with just on her own, and with what she had to work with just out of her own magnificent mind, are amazing. And I highly recommend that anyone, if they're interested in any decent ASMR and especially role play videos to help you sleep, or entertainment, or ASMR, or anything else, I highly recommend. Besides Tessa and Always Slightly Sleepy, I highly recommend Sherry Lorraine. You know, you got to watch out a little bit. You might get a little hypnotized. She's really good at hypnotism, but she hypnotizes a little bit to help people sleep. You know, sort of medicinally, I guess we could say. But anyway, she's really in a league of her own. You know, she's a virtuoso. Well, they both are. There's a lot of virtuosos on YouTube. But anyway, getting back to my story with it. So when I wasn't eating anything after my wife died, and I only was drinking water every 5 or 6 days or so, and then I drink a lot of water, and I'll tell you, I was losing weight. I lost 200 pounds, and I was still, you know, well, I was almost down to about 100 pounds. I was down to about 120 or 130 pounds from almost 300 pounds within a few weeks. That's how fast I was losing weight from not eating, not drinking. I looked like, I was in Auschwitz or something like that. And I didn't care, you know. Um, I just wanted, I won't say I wanted to die, but I wanted to go where she was, where my wife was. Wherever she was, that's where I wanted to be. And she wasn't alive anymore. She was somewhere else, so that's where I wanted to be. And that's just something that happens to you when your spouse dies, and or can. And it happened to me. And it's very real. And so I put on YouTube just to help me sleep, because besides this, not eating, I couldn't sleep either, you know, and I wanted to at least be able to sleep a little bit, and because I was losing my mind a little bit too, you know, if that's possible, it's like, you lose your mind? Ha! That happened a long time ago. Yeah, I know. But anyway, so I started listening to trains, because I used to be able to fall asleep to the sound of trains and trains whistles and the sound of trains on train tracks. And you could put that on YouTube. There's tons of those to help you sleep. So I was putting those on. And then I realized I could put on the sound of rain, because I love the sound of a real downpour, heavy rain, especially a thunder and lightning storm. And I've always been able to sleep well in a tent when it was pouring out and I was camping out, and it was thunder and lightning, downpour all night long, and I was in a tent. Like I told you, I was an expert on survival, wilderness survival, and mountain climbing, hiking, and I was taught by an expert Eagle Scout, my cousin, Bruce Zanicki. It's a good Polish name. As a matter of fact, that was his name, Bruce. Bruce Ellis, but his mother's maiden name was the same as my grandmother's maiden name, Saniki, a good Polish name. And Ellis, I'm not sure, that could be Polish too. But anyway, so he's the one that taught me everything I know. So we would be out on the side of the mountain, when I was 18 or 20, in my 20s, in my teens, and camping, sometimes with a whole bunch of other people that were mountain climbing with us and camping that really, we tried to help as much as we could. I'd go with my friend Stu, and he went with my cousin and I a lot too. He's a very brilliant guy. He still lives up in New Hampshire. Just brilliant, genius person. Stu Randall is his name. He's always been a genius, and he was always way smarter than me, and way more uh, talented and motivated at doing things, and smarter at learning things, and mature. He was on a maturity level that was so much higher than me always. This is my friend Stuart Randall I'm talking about, who I went to school with. And so he and I, who was my best mountain climbing buddy, me and Stu and my friend Chris, my brother Chris Quinn. He's still my good friend of mine, my brother Chris. He lives in New Hampshire, and he was an excellent mountaineer as well. So me, my friend Stu Randall, Chris Quinn, and my friend Chris Donnelly, who has passed away, unfortunately, very sadly, a long time ago. He was an excellent mountaineer as well. I'd put him in that category. And a few of my other friends, a friend called Todd Graham, my friend named Todd Graham, he was in our category too, also. So we would be on the side of one of the White Mountains in New Hampshire in pouring rain all night long in our tent, and everything in our tent would be completely dry. And we, including our sleeping bags and the bottom of our sleeping bags, and like I said, everything in our tent was completely dry during pouring rain all night long downpour. All around on the side of a mountain, water gushing down all around the tent, and we were perfectly dry, warm, cozy, and dry in our tent, wherever we were. Because, not to brag, but that's how well we learned. That's how good the people were that taught us, about mountaineering and about wilderness survival and mountain climbing and staying comfortable when you're camping and mountain climbing. So, I always slept well during the sound of a thunderstorm, a real downpour on the top of the tent while I was camping out. That's one time I always slept well. I always felt good, and comfortable. And so, after my wife died during this dark period I was going through, I had discovered YouTube, and I shouldn't say I discovered YouTube. I knew about YouTube because I'd put it on every now and then when my wife was alive. So I learned how to fix things, fix the lawnmower, get the lawnmower going again, stuff like that. Fix different things, washing machine, stove, what have you, whatever. As a husband, you always, if you're like me at all, like to tinker around and fix things. If anything broke, oh, no need to try to call a repairman. You got me, right? And I eventually, usually would get the thing working, and a lot of times it might not be working quite as well as it should be, but I usually get the stuff working again. But anyway, so I was familiar with YouTube by checking on YouTube to learn how to fix things and things like that, but that was about it. So after my wife died, I'm going through the dark period, and I'm trying to sleep, and I found trains going by, train sounds, the feeling of being on rumbling trains with train sounds and rain sounds, train and rain, trains in the rain sounds on YouTube to try to help me sleep. And then, since the YouTube algorithm AI in its genius, you know, realize that this is a guy who's looking for ways to try to help him sleep, and he's trying all different things, binaural sounds and things like that. And what do? They put up a few thumbnails of ASMR and Sherry Lorraine. Like, wow, who is this? Who is she? And of course, she's interesting because even though my wife was gone, I was in mourning and everything like that. Um, she's a extremely attractive woman, beautiful, most beautiful woman I've ever seen, Um, sorry, honey, of course you were, my wife. But, Sherry really is probably the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And she does ASMR and helps, you to sleep and things like that. She did great affirmations and great meditations too, she was doing at the time. And, you could still see those on YouTube, and I highly recommend, like I've already recommended Sherry Lorraine. I can't recommend her enough, but I especially recommend the videos where she does meditation and uh, affirmations. Her affirmations are so wonderful that they're fantastic. And, and all of her ASMR is really good. She got just has the sweetest voice you could ever hear. Um, Pretty much all the ones I like do, And anyway, so I started watching Sherry Lorraine, and I started watching her. I started really liking her videos. Not all she does, some of these videos that, drive all the young guys crazy, and me too to a certain extent. But you know, because I wasn't dead, but she has some like cozy cuddles with my crush, which it's a great role play video, but things like that where she pretends to be your girlfriend, and stuff, and she's really really good at it, and she is beautiful, and she, like I said, her voice is just out of this world angelic, and so she's got great role play videos like that for entertainment and fun. But really, she's got some really serious meditation videos that I would say are up there with any other meditation videos on YouTube. And she's really an exquisite anomaly of an individual. And she has like I said, the great affirmations, and they were really helping me. And they were helping me and during all that, somehow I believe she did hypnotize me. I got hypnotized a little bit. And in that hypnotized state, I started, I won't say caring about living and wanting to live and being alive, because I still really didn't much, and I still wasn't eating anything. And I didn't want to, and I didn't plan on it. And I wasn't like planning on dying. I wasn't trying to kill myself. I just didn't care. I didn't care anymore. And I did want to be wherever my wife was. And I know it sounds like that means, well, I was trying to kill myself. I wanted to die. But not really. It's just that I guess you kind of have to go through it yourself to really, really understand that kind of feeling, of true carelessness, and unhappy. Yeah. I would say I was in a depression without thinking of it that way, or without realizing it. I certainly probably would have been diagnosed as some kind of depressive state, of mourning, and you know, but certainly truly careless of. I cared about people, and stuff, and I still cared about right and wrong and all that. I just I didn't care about eating, and I wasn't gonna eat. I didn't want to eat, and I wasn't going to. And regardless, I wasn't thinking about any consequences. And anyway, for myself. But anyway, I think Sherry kind of hypnotized me a little bit. I'm just about positive of it. And I got interested. in watching her videos. And then, I started off watching her meditation videos and her affirmation videos and all of her great ASMR videos. And I just loved her voice. I loved the way she talked. I loved her wisdom. She says such wise things, and she's only 27 years old, you know, and she will be 28 in September 25th. And she had a great birthday last year. And I hope any of you out there can at least see her around her time of her birthday, around September 25th, because she really shines then. She always does. But she does, last year, she did a lot of streaming videos like this one around the time of her birthday. And she said such a lot of phenomenal, great words of wisdom. And she's just really fantastic. She's got a lot to say. And I got interested in her, so I was interested all of a sudden in something in life that, like I said, it's hard to understand. I know it's sort of hard to describe unless you've actually went through it before. But I think I had actually lost interest in everything on earth. Pretty much everything on earth after my wife died, when my wife was dead, and after her funeral and everything, when I was just alone and by myself over here. Yeah, I was trying to go to the senior center, and I was, but I wasn't really clicking with any of the people over there that much. I liked everyone, you know. I was doing exercises mostly, their exercise things, and I loved everyone over there. Everyone was really nice over there. I had a couple of really good friends over there, a couple of really smart friends over there too. And I'll tell you, those ladies over there are really good at exercising. If you want to get in shape, check out your local senior center. You may, and if you're about my age, I'm 65, I'll be 66 next month, the senior center might be a good place to check out if you haven't checked it out yet. So I was trying stuff like that. I was going to church. I had a church I was going to. Unfortunately, it wasn't a political church really, but deep down, I knew that a lot of people at the church were real Trump fans, and a lot of them weren't really Trump fans, but they did vote for Trump because of the abortion issue, because, their heart was in the right place, because they said they had to vote for Trump because of abortion, because he was pro-abortion. Well, really, in real life, Donald Trump, sure, he might say he's pro-abortion, for that kind of popularity and those votes, and the conservatism of it, but he really couldn't care less. He didn't give a shit about any babies or anything like that. He doesn't. He doesn't care about anything but himself, and if you're smart enough and you know enough and you watch him and you're listening to him long enough and you see what he really does, you'll know that Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about babies or abortion, But yeah, okay, that was one of the things he was saying. He was pro-abortion. But the thing is, let me tell you something about Donald Trump and abortion and babies. And this is very relevant right now, because Donald Trump right now, he has a good friend called Erdogan. President Erdogan, who is the president of Turkey. He is a demon. He is a demon person. Just like Trump, he is like a devil. Erdogan is his name. He's the president of Turkey. He also, in a way, doesn't care about anyone but himself, but he does care about killing a lot of people, other people though. Trump doesn't really care about killing other people, but he doesn't give a shit if they die either. I'm talking about babies, elderly. innocent people, non-combatants. Trump couldn't care less. And he has proven that over and over and over again. And anyone in the military certainly should know that. Or anyone that follows the military, because that's when you really see it in them. So anyway, Erdogan, for years, let me tell you a little bit about this backstory and about this guy, Erdogan, that Trump is getting really friendly with right now, this moment. It's on the news. It was on the news today. It was on the news yesterday. And, Trump says fake news. Well, guess what? There's really no such thing as fake news. News is news. News is the news. The news is what is on all the different news channels that's the same. Even Fox News, the news part of it, the part that's the same on CBS, NBC, Fox News even, and all the other world newses, the newses from France, the news from England, BBC, and the news from all over the world, all those newses that are the same, that's real news. That really happened. It's all this commentary and the commentators around this real news that, he very successfully got people to believe was part of the real news. But all that commentator and all these commentary around the real news part, I won't even call that fake news. That's just a bunch of guys, a bunch of people saying their opinion, telling you their opinions, and telling you their biased opinions, telling you things they want you to believe because it benefits them. It behooves you to believe these things. And so that's what Trump mixed it all together, the real news and all the commentators and commentary part of the news. We didn't used to have all that BS. We didn't have all that bullshit when Walter Cronkite was on saying the news back in the 40s and the 50s. I mean, the 50s and the 60s. Walter Cronkite, he was a famous newscaster. Anyone my age knows who he is. But anyway, and the news that we had. We still had CBS, NBC, and, ABC. And that was all real news. That was the regular news. We had commentators, some commentators back then. They certainly weren't as biased and as bad as they are right now. But now it's all, Trump's got it all, everyone to believe it's all the same. And that's what he calls fake news, But there's really no such thing as fake news. Because news that they say the same thing on, and I know I'm reiterating here, but even Fox News, and NBC, CBS, and all the other news channels in the world, the parts they say that are the same, that's real news, folks. And so, anyway, there's really no such thing as fake news. The part that he wants you to believe is fake news is commentary around the real news. So, anyway, I'd say don't just stick to one news station and alienate all the rest. Watch a little bit of all of them, unless you really hate one, because it has so much bad commentary. Then don't watch that one. Don't watch anything that makes you feel bad. But, take a little bit out of NBC, CBS, all the other ones, the foreign newses, BBC, and compare what's the same, what's they seem to be saying that are about the same thing. And that's probably the accurate stuff. That's probably the real stuff. And most of the military, people in the military, a lot of times, we know the real stuff. We can get the real stuff. And so that's why I'm saying that, especially people in the military know that Erdogan, President of Turkey, Erdogan, is not a nice man. And I'll tell you why. For years, this is a fact, for years, President Erdogan tried to eradicate these people called the Kurdish people. Now, Kurdish people are actually probably the majority of the people in Turkey are Kurdish people. But there are different sects of Kurdish people. And Erdogan hates some Kurdish people. especially the Kurdish people that broke off to make their own state called Kurdistan. And but anyway, I saw her again, and then I saw her again after a couple times after that when I saw her, and we got aside, and she said to me very sharply and in very good English. You know, I didn't even know how well she could speak English until then. And she said, "Of course I know who Erdogan is. Yes, he killed my whole family. He killed everyone in my family. He killed my husband. He killed my two boys. He killed my girls. He killed my babies. He said, these babies here that I have here are the only ones I have left. And I was lucky that I escaped because I hid. You know, I hid with these two babies I have here. And the, French soldiers or someone helped to get her out, and she hid. And she was one of the ones that was escaped. And she got over here to America. But this is a Kurdish woman that I know that I really like a lot, and this is a true story, and this is real. This is real life right now. And I didn't mean to get on here saying all this, heavy stuff. I never do, but it looks like no one's listening to me anyway. I don't know. It says it's still recording, and I'll put this up as a video so people will be able to see it. So hopefully more people will see it. But I'm really grateful for the people that did say hi and that signed in. It looks like you can't. There's so few people that did. I got a subscriber. Wow, okay. Someone was watching because I got one subscriber. You may be a Kurd. If you are, I love you. I love you anyway for subscribing. Thank you so much. That's what I have. The closest thing to from my YouTube, journey to monetization that, like I said, seems like it will never happen. The closest I have to it is I have 750 subscribers, which is really not a lot in the long run. But you have to have 1,000 as one of the minimum requirements. That's the only requirement that I'm even anywhere near close to, is getting my 1,000 subscribers. So, oh no, it's gone. Did you unsubscribe? I'm sorry. I know you can unsubscribe as easy as you can subscribe. It looks like they unsubscribed. I guess I talked too much. I talked myself out of my subscriber. Okay. Well, I was getting back to my $1 million stacked high. I might as well finish saying that story. So, $1 million, like I was saying, stacked one on top of another, all the way up, and magically staying up, not falling down. A column of $1 million $1 bills stacked one on top of another is, let's see, did I say 20 times? It's about $1 billion. Okay, I'm talking about $1 billion now. $1 billion stacked up one on top of each other magically so they don't fall down. $1 billion in a column is 10 times higher than the height of Mount Everest, which is over 29,000 feet. That's hard to visualize, okay? 10 Mount Everests stacked on top of each other. That's how high the stack would be if you stacked $1 billion $1 bills on top of each other, paper $1 bills all the way up. It would be like 10 Mount Everests in a row. And Trump has billions and billions and billions of dollars. If that puts that into any perspective at all, I'm not even going to go into what Jesus said or what's said in the Bible or anything like that, but with just a fraction of one of those $1 billion that he has, or a few of those $1 billion, he could wipe out hunger in America, wipe out homelessness in America, completely wipe it out with just a little bit of his own personal money. without ever feeling any difference, any pinch, ever even noticing it. I'm not saying he should. He certainly doesn't have any obligation to do so. I'm just saying what he could do if he wanted to. When people think about what a good man he is and a nice person he is and all that. I'm not saying he's a bad person for not wiping out hunger in America and taking care of the homeless situation in America and the hungry. This is just even in America. I mean, he could do it for the whole world and never notice it with his own money. But $1 billion, $1 billion stacked, $1 paper dollar at a time, one on top of each other, going right straight up, magically staying up by itself, is as high, to put it in perspective, as 30 Mount Everests in a row stacked on top of each other. That's how high $1 billion would be. That's how much $1 billion is, to mathematically kind of put it in perspective a little bit, you know. Anyway, I didn't mean to be a troublemaker, or maybe I did. I really didn't, like I said, I got to the point where I'm kind of too old to give a shit about what people think about what I say anymore, or even what I look like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to change the world or anything like that. I thought I might be able to get known on YouTube. Well, certainly I haven't been able to in the past week because I've been so sick and everything, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get that famous or anything like that, but I'll try to keep trying. I think about never doing it again all the time. It's like, oh God, this is too hard. Why am I even doing this? Nothing's going to come of this. Obviously, I'm not that charismatic, I'm certainly not that good looking. I actually was supposed to have my new dental work by now. Anyway, I'm just kind of, it's not a good time to be funny. Anyway, it's always a good time to be funny. I don't know. Anyway, I love you all, really, especially anyone that's listening to me or anyone that's cared about anything that I said, or if anyone got anything out of anything that I said so far. It makes me feel good to think that may have happened, that may have occurred. And at least I got to give a shout out to two of the other greats on YouTube, Tessa of Always Slightly Sleepy and Sherry Lorraine of Sherry Lorraine. And, there's a couple others, I will say real quick. Sarah Lavender, ASMR, she is fantastic. Simply Kelly in Australia does ASMR. Check her out. Sky in Hawaii, ASMRs. Check her out. She is fantastic. She is awesome. She is also totally gorgeous, and all these women are. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of ASMR again. I got everything I'm really been working. I've been doing a lot of homework as far as that goes. Working hard. I got a lot of stuff collected. And I know I always talk about the stuff I have and the stuff I could do and I'd like to do that I never do, that I haven't done so far. But this is my big, this is what I call, this is one of my big bag of ASMR. I'll put it down here so you can see it. This is, I'll turn it this way. This is one of my big bag of ASMR triggers, ASMR plastics. I've got bubble wrap in here of all different kinds. I've got all different kinds of plastic wrap and plastic sounds, making plastic sounds. Bubble wrap, tons and tons of bubble wrap, different, really, you put these up to the microphone, and I don't really have it on right now, but I'm going to be bringing all this stuff out and doing it, and it's going to be really good, and it's going to sound really great, and it's going to be really relaxing. And this is just my big bag of plastic triggers. That's going to be in a few videos right there. But I also have, like I said, my learning things. I put my things up on the wall here to help me learn how to do things on the computer. I've got several notebooks of that, but there's one of them. And I put that up there, how to do things on YouTube, how to do things for YouTube, and then recording on my laptop. I haven't given up on that yet. I've got these all on my wall like this, and YouTube videos, content to make. Says easy. It's not really easy. How to do things on the cell phone, because that's still really hard to me. How to do things on the Galaxy cell phone. And then, passwords, but I'm not sure those. I got one for all different passwords changing all the time. And there's Newport, Oregon. That's the town I love. That's the one my wife and I love the best. Tessa, if you're out there, if you get a chance to go down to Newport, Oregon, if you haven't already, I highly recommend it. That's what it looks like right there. And there's Asheville, North Carolina, yay! And with that, I'll show one of my paintings that I did there. Move that to the side. This is all for ASMR stuff too. Move that off, and we'll end up with one of my paintings. Jeff Quinn, that's me. Jeffrey Starwolf. That's it. Okay. Love you folks. Love you all. We'll see you later. I hope. And I hope y'all are doing great. And thank you for for telling me, none of your business, that's in their name. Thank you for telling me that you could hear me. And thank you for saying hi, Daniel Hunter, and all you other people, and you 8 people that did the likes. Thank you, you top fans. Love you, and hopefully you'll be hearing me shouting out from somewhere, and everyone won't just hate it and hate me. And hopefully y'all just have a great night, and I'll talk to you later. I love you. Bye. Bye, y'all. Really. Bye, bye. Love you. Love you. Bye. Okay. Alrighty. Starwolf signing off. Oh my God. Okay. Let's see. All right. Bye. Bye.